Chapter 447. This guy's strength is definitely huge and he also has an alloy arm. It is indeed very difficult to deal with him. Polar Bear's #1 mercenary, Thunder stretched out his alloy arm and pointed his forefingers at Li Fan again. Bye-bye. With a bang, a laser cannon shot out from his fingers and hit Li Fan's body. Boom! Smoke exploded and rolled out in an instant. Thunder tidied up his arm and said in Russian, "Go and retrieve the Z virus. That Chinese monkey is dead." More than a dozen mercenaries immediately walked towards Li Fan. One of them was holding a rifle and seemed to be preparing to shoot Li Fan. But at this moment, a hand suddenly grabbed his head. The fingers were like sharp blades that directly pierced through the top of the mercenary's head and sank into his skull. The mercenary did not even have the time to scream before he died under the hands of this devil. Li Fan slowly stood up and wiped his fingers clean on the mercenary's body. "Sorry, I was a little scared by you." Li Fan threw the mercenary's corpse away, then pointed at Thunderclap on the opposite side. "Come here, I'll play with you." "Interesting," Thunder grinned. "Tenacious? Chinese monkey." Thunder did not jump over directly. Instead, he carried a Gatling gun and turned the motor. As he fired, he slowly walked towards Li Fan. Li Fan waved the long sword in his hand and continuously knocked away the bullets in front of him. When he got close, Thunder suddenly waved the Gatling gun. Below the Gatling gun was a saber that slashed towards Li Fan's head. Li Fan raised his sword and cut the Gatling gun in half. Thunder's hand grabbed Li Fan's shoulder as if he wanted to put Li Fan down. However, Li Fan had already adapted to Thunder's attack rhythm. He would definitely not fall for it again. "Sorry, I've already seen through your attack." Li Fan stretched out 3 fingers. "I'll finish you in 3 moves." Thunder did not quite understand what Li Fan was saying, but its alloy hand had already grabbed Li Fan's shoulder. However, Li Fan turned around and moved his feet. He forcefully dragged Thunder's body up and smashed it onto the ground in front of him. Shoulder throw. It was an ordinary attack, but it was effective against Thunder. Thunder smashed a hole in the ground, but he raised his legs and clamped them on Li Fan's neck. As long as Thunder twisted, Li Fan's neck would be broken. However, Li Fan simply bent over and slapped Thunder. Boom! Thunder's body erupted with a powerful force, and many places on his body were torn open, leaving bloody scars. At the same time, a pit appeared on the ground. As Thunder spat out a mouthful of blood, it raised its alloy hand and aimed its hand cannon at Li Fan. However, Li Fan grabbed Thunder's palm and bent it upward. With a cracking sound, Thunder's alloy hand was actually bent upwards. Li Fan then stepped on Thunder's shoulder and forcefully pulled off Thunder's alloy arm. Electricity flickered as Li Fan threw the alloy arm to the side. Thunder's body was very strong, and his alloy arm was also very powerful. However, what kind of person was Li Fan? As an expert who had reached the peak of perfection, once he brought out his full strength, how could he lose? "Is there anyone else who wants to play?" Li Fan looked around. None of the mercenaries dared to casually step forward. "If not, then I'm leaving." As Li Fan said this, he turned around and was about to leave. However, he was suddenly shocked because he touched his back and found that the box in his backpack was broken. He turned around and found that Thunder, who was originally lying on the ground, suddenly held some kind of alloy syringe in his left hand and instantly pierced it into his vein. "Fuck, what is this thing?" "Devils incarnate, do you know what the Z virus is?" "Oh no. I've never heard of it, but it's definitely different from the powder I usually send." The Devil's incarnate was a little stunned. He had never seen such a situation before. "I hope it's not something too excessive." As soon as Li Fan's voice fell, Thunder's body suddenly began to swell. His muscles were already very strong to begin with. Now, his muscles expanded by 2 times and became extremely thick, just like a gorilla. A lot of flesh suddenly extended out from the place where his broken arm was, connecting to the alloy arm and pulling it back to Thunder's arm. Thunder slowly stood up and became more than 3 meters tall. He was many heads taller than Li Fan and could almost use his shadow to cover Li Fan. Li Fan raised his head and looked at him, not knowing what to say. "Fuck, what a waste of my words just now. Is this the effect of that medicine? Li Fan thought of the medicine that Thunder obtained. That thing should be the item that he was supposed to escort, but now it had been snatched away by this group of Russians and even used. "Fuck you, give me back my 1 million. As Li Fan spoke, he really wanted to tear Thunder in half. However, after Thunder absorbed this unknown medicine, it was as if he had been injected with hormones and directly roared at Li Fan. A wave of air directly blew Li Fan's body away. Li Fan was a little stunned. Fuck, just a roar and he blew me away? Did this guy have a large hairdryer in his stomach? Bang. Thunder stretched out his hand and directly broke a statue beside him and threw it at Li Fan. It was a bronze statue in the shape of a human. Li Fan immediately lay on the ground and dodged the statue's attack. Bang. A building in the distance was immediately smashed into ruins by the statue. Fuck, how strong is this? Li Fan couldn't help but be speechless. This strength was a bit too strong. No wonder this medicine was worth 1 million just to escort it here. It was no wonder that Polar Bear had spent so much manpower and resources to get it. Whoever could get this potion would be able to build a terrifying army. Fuck your grandpa, what is this situation? Even the devil's incarnation was scared to the point of peeing. This was the first time he had seen such a terrifying thing. Devil's incarnation, you better hide well. As soon as Li Fan finished speaking, Thunder suddenly slapped Li Fan and sent him flying. Boom! Li Fan was like a fly that was swatted away. His whole body flew dozens of meters away and smashed a small church behind him. How terrifying! The devil's incarnation was a little desperate. He was afraid that he would die here today. However, Li Fan's voice came from the walkie-talkie again. Devil's incarnation, you hide well. I can't control the next battle. Chapter 448. Sky-Swallowing Toad. Li Fan entered his strongest state. That Thunder with a body like King Kong suddenly pounced on Li Fan. After using this drug, his intelligence had obviously deteriorated. His moves were no longer the exquisite fighting technique from before, but the most primitive attack. But with his body and strength, even this kind of primitive attack had the most terrifying threat. However, Li Fan still stood there and did not dodge. He looked at the huge figure descending from the sky with both hands smashing down on his head. And Li Fan's own palms were behind him and then suddenly pushed forward. Money Toad spitting bead. The white bead was held in Li Fan's hand and fiercely blasted at the falling humanoid monster. The white energy bead continued to twist and swell. In the end, it pushed Thunder's huge body and sent him flying into the air. Bloom! Li Fan clenched his fist and the bead in the air pulled Thunder's body and exploded. With a bang, it was as if a huge firecracker had been ignited in the air. Red blood sprinkled down like rain. Li Fan was very excited. His eyes were red. The blood had stimulated his inner demon. Devil incarnate. Li Fan's voice had a trace of hoarseness as he called out in a low voice. What's wrong? Quickly escape. The strong stimulation made Li Fan's inner demon very strong. He suddenly felt that it was better to let it out than to block it. If he continued to suppress the inner demon, it would instead cause him to completely go berserk. Right. Listen to your own heart. The inner demon kept roaring in his ears. Li Fan felt the scene in front of him was getting darker, as if darkness was about to descend. The world turned blood red in an instant. Execute this man. He destroyed the Z virus. Those Polar Bear mercenaries received the next order. They must execute Li Fan. All the mercenaries turned their guns and attacked Li Fan. The huge mercenary group seemed to want to drown Li Fan. But at this moment, Li Fan suddenly roared towards the sky. The cultivation technique in his body automatically switched to Star Luo Divine technique. The surrounding mercenaries had already surrounded Li Fan. All of them pulled the trigger and fired at Li Fan. But Li Fan just stood there. His eyes seemed to be looking at the sky, as if he was gazing into the depths of the invisible universe. And when the bullets hit his body, they could not even break through his true energy. Li Fan seemed to have an invisible steel coat, constantly blocking those fatal bullets. However, the mercenaries' firepower was very strong. The bullets shot out as if they were free, as if they were going to tear Li Fan into pieces. But Li Fan ignored these bullets, as if they were not a threat to him. He only took a deep breath, and the surrounding mercenaries were suddenly stunned. Their bodies were becoming emptier and emptier. Their life force was forcibly collected from their bodies, then turned into true energy and was sucked into Li Fan's nose. Li Fan's true energy grew rapidly. More than 100 mercenaries' life force was instantly sucked away by Li Fan. These mercenaries did not die on the real battlefield. Instead, they all died of exhaustion in this kind of encirclement. This strange situation made one of the polar bear commanders dumbfounded. He was standing on top of an armored vehicle 100 meters away, which was why he was lucky enough to escape the disaster. Demon. This guy is definitely a demon. The commander let out a moan like the devil incarnate. Oh my God, this Chinese kid, why is he so terrifying? Must kill him. The commander felt that if he did not kill that Chinese kid here today, their polar bear would completely become a second-rate mercenary group in the future. Under his order, an old Soviet tank slowly drove over. The tracks left 2 clear marks on the ground, and the barrel was aimed at Li Fan. Compared to this tank, Li Fan's body seemed especially small, as if he could be crushed into dregs at any time. Boom! Flames appeared, and in the blink of an eye, the artillery shell arrived in front of Li Fan. No matter how strong Li Fan's true energy was, it was impossible for him to block the artillery shell, especially when the tank fired an armor-piercing shell. Not to mention Li Fan's true energy protection, even a 5-centimeter steel plate would be pierced through. The artillery shell hit the ground, and Li Fan jumped into the air in an instant, then quickly approached the tank. This tank with 4-centimeter armor weighed about 10 tons, but Li Fan grabbed the barrel and lifted it up. Li Fan held the barrel and swung it, sending the tank flying and smashing it into the mercenary group behind. Following that, Li Fan turned into a violent storm and instantly pounced into the crowd. Although Li Fan, who had practiced the Black Tiger Emperor form, was currently maintaining the Star Luo divine skill, his cultivation foundation was still there. Li Fan's fingers were like daggers, easily tearing the mercenaries' throats and digging out their hearts. He was like a ferocious tiger, killing in the midst of a flock of sheep. Not a single mercenary was a match for Li Fan. All his enemies became corpses. Blood dyed the square. This was not an encirclement, but a massacre. Not a single mercenary would forget this day. They would forever remember this terrible nightmare. Those experienced mercenaries, who had experienced countless bullets and bullets, had climbed back up from the front lines of death time and time again. They had courage, guts, and were not afraid of killing or death. But at this moment, they were finally afraid. Because they were not facing an enemy, but a terrifying demon. They could not defeat such an enemy. They were only his victims. Li Fan was not tired at all. He used battle to nurture battle. As he fought, he absorbed the life force around him to replenish his lost true energy. As for the mercenaries, they finally began to disperse because of fear. They lost their will to fight and only wanted to escape. Li Fan stood there. The true energy in his body continued to gather, and the image of a giant toad appeared behind him. Although it was a little blurry, it had some embryonic form. The giant toad opened its huge mouth and took a deep breath. Some of the mercenaries who had escaped far away were immediately sucked back by the giant toad's huge mouth and fell in front of Li Fan. Li Fan used his claws to deal with them cleanly and efficiently without the slightest bit of sloppiness. With this massacre technique, almost no mercenaries could escape from Li Fan's palms. The entire square was blood red, appearing even more dazzling under the sunlight. There were corpses and minced meat beneath Li Fan's feet. There were no survivors. The world seemed to have quietened down. The devil incarnate was already dumbfounded. He sat on the tower in a daze, feeling as if he was completely dumbfounded. Chapter 449. Li Fan stood alone in the blood-stained square for a full 10 minutes. During these 10 minutes, no one came to disturb him. This area seemed to have become a forbidden area, and no one dared to set foot in it. Li Fan was like a devil at the end of the world. Standing under the scarlet sun, he seemed to have condensed into a statue. But the devil's incarnation had slowly woken up. If he continued to stand there, the Russian army would crush him. At that time, no matter how strong and powerful Li Fan was, he would be crushed by the powerful war machine of the country. But Li Fan was standing there. Even if he did not move, the devil's incarnation was a little afraid. Should I wake him up? Once he wakes him up, what if he kills me? At this moment, the devil's incarnation hesitated. The devil's incarnation was not afraid of death, but he did not want to die without knowing why. But no matter what, this kid could be considered to have taken revenge for his brother. The devil incarnate took a light breath. It was as if he had thrown a pebble into a calm pool of water, causing ripples to form. Li Fan, who was motionless, suddenly turned his head and looked in the direction of the devil's incarnation. His body moved as fast as lightning, and he quickly ran toward the devil's incarnation while sticking close to the ground. The devil's incarnation was shocked. But this was a tower that was more than 50 meters tall. He still had time to escape. He stretched out his hand and quickly carried the parachute bag on his back. This was his only tool to escape. Previously, there were too many mercenaries surrounding him. The reason why the devil's incarnation did not use it was because he was not a fool. Opening the parachute bag in front of those mercenaries was tantamount to throwing a moving target in front of them. But now was indeed a good time. He had to quickly escape before that kid went up the tower. However, things did not go as he wished. Before the devil incarnate could put on his parachute, Li Fan was already on the outer wall of the tower. With a few steps, he actually ran vertically to the top of the tower. Before the devil's incarnation could react, Li Fan had already arrived in front of him. He landed on a railing in front of him and stepped lightly on it. A pair of red eyes stared at the devil's incarnation. It was as if two sharp scimitars were stabbing into the devil's incarnation's heart. The devil incarnate was afraid. The devil incarnate was also a person who lived with his head on his belt. He didn't know how long he could live, so he enjoyed the principle of carpe diem. Therefore, to the devil incarnate, death was not scary. After all, he was always accompanied by death. But at this moment, the devil incarnate was not afraid of his body, but of his soul. This kind of fear was something he could not resist. It was like a magic attack that penetrated deep into his bones. The devil incarnate took a step back and almost fell from the tower. Li Fan stared at him as if there was a hand grabbing his heart and slowly squeezing it. He was in despair. His life had probably come to an end at this moment. And in the sky, there was a sudden roar. The helicopter that had just transported Thunder seemed to have returned for reconnaissance. The helicopter circled in the air and finally aimed its powerful cannon at Li Fan, as if it wanted to end this demon's life. Li Fan looked away, and the devil incarnate felt relieved. At the same time, this Chinese demon waved his hand, and the spear on the ground immediately flew up and stabbed out like lightning. It directly pierced the front windshield of the helicopter and stabbed the pilot's chest. Blood gushed out along the spear's body, and the helicopter fell to the ground. At the moment of landing, Li Fan stretched out his hand again and used Dragon Toad absorption to pull the spear back into his hand. Then it returned to the shape of a knife handle and he inserted it back into his belt. Li Fan was in front of the devil incarnate. The devil incarnate thought that he was dead, but he didn't expect that Li Fan just stretched and then said to the devil incarnate, "I'm sorry I scared you. It's all settled here. Do you want to send me back?" "Okay." The devil incarnate was obviously stunned for a moment. He didn't expect that Li Fan would wake up so quickly. Looking at Li Fan's indifferent appearance, he couldn't believe his eyes. Everything was like a dream. The guy who killed people just now was not the lazy teenager in front of him. "What's wrong?" Li Fan asked. "No, nothing." The devil incarnate quickly waved his hand and calmed himself down. "I'm afraid that the mercenaries have surrounded this place. How should we leave?" "It's okay. I'd like to see which mercenary would dare to stop me." Li Fan smiled, then looked around. At least within a radius of 1,000 meters, there is no one. "Where's your motorcycle? Is it full?" "It's full." The devil incarnate was now full of admiration for Li Fan. This guy was simply unimaginable. He had been in Jianghu for so many years, but this was the first time he had seen such a powerful person. If he could befriend him, it seemed that his future life would really have some benefits. This man, where did he come from? Why does he have such great power? While the pursuers had not arrived, Li Fan and the devil incarnate left the square that had completely disappeared from history. Along the way, Li Fan was not happy. Although he had released his inner demons, his body and mind had a certain degree of comfort. But the mission still failed. That unknown potion was used by Old Harry Sabi. But the effect was amazing. It turned Old Harry into a monster. In terms of strength, this monster was almost on par with him. If it wasn't for his excellent martial arts, he might not be his opponent. If such a terrifying army was created, then the structure of the entire world might change again. Li Fan sat behind the devil incarnate. Along the way, the devil incarnate did not dare make a sound, afraid that he would provoke Li Fan. Halfway through the journey, the devil incarnate's phone suddenly rang. It was different from Li Fan's phone. Li Fan's phone had long lost its signal. But the devil incarnate was using a dedicated satellite phone, so the signal was very strong. The devil incarnate was swift and fierce. With one hand on the handlebars, he took out his phone with the other and answered the call. Damn it, who is it? The devil incarnate suddenly fell silent, then reached over his shoulder and handed the phone to Li Fan. It's for you, for me? Li Fan was taken aback. Who would call the devil incarnate when looking for him? The two of them had temporarily joined forces when they reached the border. Who in the world had information about them? Chapter 450. Along the way, there was nothing but killing. Li Fan thought about it and realized that there were almost none of them who could still be alive after seeing the two of them. Who exactly was it that was able to find out about them so accurately? This made Li Fan a little shocked. It was already night and the surrounding sky was dark. On both sides, there was a vast expanse of white snow that had fallen into darkness. Only the white light from the motorcycle illuminated the road ahead. In such an environment, no one would be calm when they received such a strange call. Counter soldiers with arms and water with earth. Li Fan picked up his phone and placed it by his ear. Mr. Li, you didn't do a good job on this trip. This sentence made Li Fan fall silent for another 2 seconds. 2 seconds later, he said, Who are you? It's sad to ask such a question. After all, I'm your sugar daddy. The other party said slowly. Li Fan pondered for a moment. This sugar daddy was really capable. He even found his way here. You called me in such a hurry. Are you asking me to refund your money? Li Fan asked. How could that be? He did not expect the other party's answer to be quite surprising. After all, the things were still handed over to the other party. Although there were some bumps along the way, you still finished the job. These words made Li Fan's body tremble. He gripped his phone tightly. You're scheming against me. No, no, no. I'm not scheming against you. The other party denied it flatly. I might have neglected some things when I was explaining the contact person. After all, no one is perfect. Everyone makes mistakes. A straightforward person doesn't beat around the bush. Li Fan asked directly, Tell me, what's your purpose? Alright, let's get straight to the point. The other party did not hide anything. Instead, he said very openly, I'm sorry that we have to chat in this way, but it's my honor to be able to work with such a powerful expert like Mr. Li. As long as Mr. Li is willing, we can further cooperate and earn more money. I don't think we need to talk anymore. Li Fan felt that this person was very annoying. Mr. Li, don't worry. Have you forgotten how powerful my Z-Virus is? Z-Virus. Li Fan recalled the monstrous thunderbolt. It was truly a ghastly sight. As long as I'm willing, I can create even more of these super soldiers. The Z-Virus was just a failed product, which was why it was called the Z-Virus. And in my hands, there was a perfect product. It can create the most powerful army for any country. Are you fucking crazy? No, 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 I'm just an arms dealer. The man on the other side laughed. My goal is just to make money, not to start a war. But your money-making is based on war. Li Fan said bluntly, I'm sorry, but I can't comply. Mr. Li, don't be in such a hurry to reject me. Anyway, you have nothing else to do now. Why don't you chat with me for a while? On the other hand, the arms dealer on the phone seemed to be in a leisurely mood. This person seemed to be very interested in Li Fan and was determined to cooperate with Li Fan. What else is there to talk about between us? Li Fan snorted coldly. Our ideals are different, and our paths are different. What's the difference between us? Although Li Fan couldn't see the arms dealer's appearance, he could guess that the man on the other side seemed to be laughing at him. Although I'm in the arms business, many people have died because of my weapons. But even without me, there are still other arms dealers. Those who want to start a war will always be able to get their weapons. But you, Mr. Li, you only relied on your own strength to slaughter an entire battalion of mercenaries. You see, when it comes to killing people, you're actually much better than me. Li Fan was unable to refute. The other party's words seemed relaxed, but there were poisonous needles hidden in them, stabbing his wounds again and again. What he said was not wrong at all. When it came to killing people, he had indeed done an earth-shattering case before. Even if Li Fan wanted to defend himself, that person was not him, but his inner demon. But who would believe such words? Releasing his inner demon once had already caused such a terrifying effect. This inner demon was like a double-edged sword. If used well, it could indeed greatly increase one's strength. If not used well, it would instead harm oneself. Li Fan swore that this was the first time he used his inner demon, and it would also be the last time. After all, he didn't have the talent of Jiang Feng, who could become one with the devil and reach the strongest state. Mr. Li, although my words are not pleasant to hear, they are indeed the truth. The other party was still communicating with him. From you, I can see boundless potential. As long as we cooperate, I will be able to research an even more powerful super gene and create an even more powerful super soldier. At that time, the two of us will be able to get rich together. No, we will definitely be as rich as a country. I understand now. Li Fan seemed to have come to a realization. All of this is merely a trap you designed. You made me escort the goods, and then informed the polar bear gang to come and snatch it. I'm afraid it was all to test my strength, right? How can this be called a trap? This is a test. Using an old saying, isn't this a proof of allegiance? Allegiance my ass. Li Fan didn't hesitate and immediately cursed, if you dare to fucking scheme against me again, no matter which stinking ditch you hide in, young master will personally pull you out, pull your head off your head and kick it like a ball. Sir, after the meeting. Before the person on the other side could finish, Li Fan had already crushed the phone. When Li Fan returned the broken phone to the devil incarnate was about to cry. Do you know how fucking expensive a satellite phone is? Tell me, are you working for the arms dealer? Li Fan asked coldly, confusing the devil incarnate. Arms dealer? What kind of fucking arms dealer? Fuck, motherfucker. The devil incarnate came to a realization. This time, this daddy's goods were wanted by an arms dealer. Motherfucker, this daddy was actually schemed against. You picked it cleanly. Li Fan's voice became colder. I think, should I believe you? Fuck your grandpa, believe it or not. This daddy's fucking brother died. The devil incarnate's body trembled slightly. His death was not worth it at all. Not worth it at all. Listening to the devil incarnate's roar, Li Fan seemed to feel that what he said seemed to be true. If the arms dealer even played with the devil incarnate, then it was really too scary. This meant that the arms dealer had a terrifying spider web channel in his hands and could plan from thousands of miles away. Then do me a favor, find out who this guy is. Chapter 451. Sam, an internationally famous arms dealer. He's notorious. Ling Tian pulled out a piece of information from the computer and passed it to Li Fan to have a look. I eliminated a lot of arms dealers, and in the end, he is the most likely person. Li Fan had already returned to the small Earth building where the company was located and called a few of the company's generals back to hold such a meeting. This person has a lot of strategic resources in his hands, and countless families have been destroyed by his weapons. Ling Tian continued to introduce this person's information. He claims to be the Uncle Sam after World War II, and likes to use some conspiracies to provoke a war between some small countries, in order to profit from it. This person is extremely ambitious, ruthless, and very shameless. You actually attracted this person's attention. This is really not a good thing. Ling Tian crossed his arms and somewhat helplessly looked at Li Fan. And this mad dog, you actually brought him back. Fuck, who are you calling a mad dog? Hearing this, the devil's incarnation was immediately unhappy. He roared and directly picked up a chair from the side and was about to hit Ling Tian's head. But Ling Tian was unmoved and continued to say, Wang Tofu, 40 years old, a special forces soldier, carrying the lives of 30 people, and 2 major cases. Hearing Ling Tian's words, the devil's incarnation was stunned. Wang Tofu? You called this tofu? Huang Lei was originally picking his feet at the side. Hearing this, his mouth immediately opened wide, as if he wanted to laugh but did not dare to. The infamous mad dog actually had such a weak name? The devil's incarnation stood there, the veins on his face twitching. Wang Tofu, if I remember correctly, the robbery of a jewelry store in Vietnam and the theft of a gold store in Russia were both your handiwork, right? What nonsense are you spouting? Lousy doesn't understand. The devil's incarnation turned his head and coldly snorted. Lousy is a law-abiding citizen. When I went out to travel, my brother was killed. The reason why Lousy is standing here is for revenge. Not to listen to your fart. Do you know? One more word, Lousy will stuff this chair into your anus, and then pull it out and stab it into your mouth. I think I'm starting to like this brother. Huang Lei turned his head and said to a young security guard. The young security guard was a little dumbfounded. He obviously didn't know what was going on here. Tofu Wang, whether you admit it or not is your own business. It has nothing to do with me. Ling Tian was very calm. He shrugged his shoulders and said, The decision lies with boss. Ling Tian did not know which big shot he was acquainted with, but his connections were indeed frightening. Li Fan sat at the side, pondering in his heart. The devil incarnate kept saying that he wanted to come back with him. Although he didn't like this person very much, considering that he had been in the underworld for so many years and had some resources, it would be a waste not to use them. So, Li Fan brought him back. However, the devil incarnate was like a firecracker. If used well, it could blow up the enemy. If they didn't use it well, they would end up in a sorry state. Thus, he could only let Ling Tian make the decision for him. While Little Four Eyes was rather intelligent, he was better at scheming and had a stomach full of schemes. Asking him to come up with a plan for people, this was not his area of expertise. Moreover, Bai Lin Luo didn't understand people like them. Ling Tian knew them better. Li Fan, I'm not begging you. The devil incarnate still couldn't let go of his pride. He shouted at Li Fan, We're at most in a cooperative relationship. As long as you're willing to kill that Sabi arms dealer, I'm willing to fight for you. I don't like to be schemed against. Li Fan didn't reply. Instead, he raised his head and asked Ling Tian, Does Sam have any other business other than firearms? Ling Tian nodded. This person is very ambitious. He has connections with the underworld everywhere. In a city, his partner is the Yellow Clothes Syndicate. This was the first time that Li Fan had met such an opponent. However, it didn't mean that he had to take a beating. The Yellow Clothes Syndicate? All right. Li Fan had some ideas. With them around, Ling Tian will naturally know about my business. That's good too. He'll do the first and I'll do the 15th. Fuck, you want to deal with the Yellow Clothes Syndicate? The devil incarnate was originally cursing at the side. When he heard Li Fan's words, he immediately raised his head. A hint of surprise flashed across his eyes. Yeah, you're scared? Li Fan smiled. If you're scared, you can leave now. It's not too late. What's there to be scared of? I like to fight with people like that. The devil incarnate laughed. The Yellow Clothes Syndicate. Fuck, I don't like them. Their old leader, Sun Jiaoyang, is still a character. That new leader, Wang Baiqiang, who the fuck does he think he is? How dare he act cool in front of me? Let's go, we'll burn Wang Baiqiang's mansion tonight. The devil incarnate's fearless demeanor made Ling Tian and Li Fan smile bitterly at each other. If we want to fight, we have to have a rhythm. Bai Lin Luo had been reading his English book. Even though he attended every meeting, he did not neglect his studies. He raised his head from the book and said, "What's the point of just burning someone else's mansion? What's the point? It feels good. That's good enough. You brats won't understand. Your way of feeling good is equivalent to having sex with a goddess. The price you have to pay is being castrated and turned into a eunuch." Bai Lin Luo looked very innocent. He pushed up his spectacles and said, "We can't do something like injuring 1,000 of our enemies' strength while hurting 2,000 of our own. What, do you have some tricks up your sleeve?" The devil incarnate had roamed the pugilistic world for so many years. He really did not think much of a high school student like Bai Lin Luo. Of course, if we want to fight, we have to make the Yellow Clothes Syndicate afraid. Bai Lin Luo stretched out his hand and knocked on the table lightly. "Didn't a few of the Yellow Clothes Syndicate offend Li Fan a while ago? It's very simple. Take advantage of this opportunity to teach these forces a lesson in a swift and decisive manner." You think this method will work? Yes, because we only need to pick out a few good fighters. The Yellow Clothes Syndicate has too many people and it's messy. They won't be able to guard against them. As long as we change places every day, we'll beat them to death whenever we see them. They can't track us down and they don't know who we are. This will cause their members to live in fear. This way, it won't be long before the members of the Yellow Uniform Syndicate will slowly fall apart. How many of them will be left in the end? The devil incarnate looked at Bai Lin Luo's bashful smile and gulped. Is this guy really a normal high school student? Chapter 452. The devil incarnate had seen two unimaginable high school students. One was Li Fan, whose strength was almost like that of a devil. He single-handedly slaughtered a battalion of polar bear mercenaries. The other was this Bai Lin Luo. This kid was young, but he was extremely cunning. He was full of bad ideas and he didn't even know it. Even Ling Tian couldn't help but feel a chill down his spine when he heard Bai Lin Luo's idea. This kid, as the brain of Li Fan, he was really extraordinary. Li Fan's thinking was quite upright and simple. But with Bai Lin Luo's help, this kid's way of thinking could easily jump out of the big picture, and even jump out of the limitations of his own growth environment. This was very rare. Even though he was young, he could be Li Fan's first military advisor. His thinking ability was even inferior to Ling Tian himself. The reason why Ling Tian could help Li Fan was because of his strong connections and rich experience. But Bai Lin Luo didn't have these connections. He was still a high school rookie and had no contact with society at all. His thinking was like playing a game of chess. Everything seemed to be his deduction on the chessboard. Okay. Li Fan stretched out 3 fingers. Let's follow what Little Four Eyes said. I already have some ideas. Li Fan thought about who to start with first. There were too many underground forces in City A. It was time for him to clean up this city. Let's start with the city hospital. Li Fan finally finished copying the homework. It was a holiday homework. If it wasn't for Lin Yun, he would probably be dead. He raised his head and ordered Huang Lei, choose 5 good men and get a broken van with a license plate. I have to do this. The devil incarnate chuckled, full of interest. You can go, but you have to wear a hat and a mask. Li Fan reminded the devil incarnate, you have to put some camouflage on your eyes as a disguise. We have to last for a long time, and there can't be any mistakes. Big brother, then I'll be responsible for driving. Huang Lei thought about it. It seemed that this was the only thing he could do. I told you to practice martial arts, but you didn't want to. Li Fan slapped the back of his head as a warning. You'll be beaten up sooner or later. No, we still have Lu Chang and Lu Zhuang. Lu Chang, Lu Zhuang, these two were now Li Fan's 2 favorite generals. The 2 of them were originally just 2 ordinary farmers who lived on 2 mu of land. They dropped out of school after junior high school and started farming. Later, their family's land was requisitioned by the village chief. The 2 of them had no choice but to take advantage of the conscription period and serve as sentries in the army for 2 years. They stood guard at the border for 2 years. In the end, when she returned home, her house was demolished because of the highway construction. Her mother was so angry that she died. Together, The two brothers killed the village chief's black clam and secretly burned down the village chief's house. The two of them could no longer stay in the village, so they ran to City A. They followed the yellow uniform group and collected protection fees from the small market every day. Although the two of them felt that life was boring, this was life after all, so they could only grit their teeth and persevere. This kind of life continued until Li Fan recruited them. Lu Chang and Lu Zhuang could actually endure hardships. When Guan Wenbao trained, the two of them were the ones who worked the hardest. Usually, the two of them had flat heads, wore tattered camouflage clothes, and wore liberation shoes. They looked like two honest migrant workers. However, once they really fought, the two of them were full of energy and did not show any mercy. The two of them were jokingly called by Huang Lei as the Golden Thugs of extraordinary security. Tell the two Golden Thugs to stop training tonight. Pack up and get ready to go out for some exercise. Huang Lei gave the young security guard next to him a look. The young security guard understood and went downstairs to call for help. I'll count myself in. Li Fan clenched his fist while Ling Tian hurriedly said, Boss, you're the big brother, you can't do everything by yourself. I'm the boss, not the big brother. This is a company, not a gang. Don't call me wrong in the future. Li Fan reminded Ling Tian. Ling Tian hurriedly patted his mouth. Look at my mouth. It's my fault, please forgive me, boss. It's okay, I can understand what you're thinking. Li Fan patted Ling Tian's shoulder, but this is my first time organizing an activity, so we have to have fun together. Lei is in charge of driving me, Lu Chang, Lu Zhuang, and Tofu, the four of us are the thugs. I'm called the Devil Incarnate. The Devil Incarnate hurriedly protested. Tofu, you keep a low profile tonight. Be ruthless when you fight, but don't kill anyone. Li Fan ignored his protest and gave him a look at the same time. Li Fan's meaning was very clear, that is to let the Devil Incarnate submit a proof of allegiance. If you want to join Li Fan's team, if you don't show some ability, if you don't follow along, it's absolutely impossible. Okay. After the Devil Incarnate finished speaking, he took out an ordinary mobile phone from his pocket, Nokia 1115. The function was simple, but for a person like the Devil Incarnate, it was very practical. What are you going to do? Seeing the Devil Incarnate was about to make a phone call, Li Fan hurriedly pulled him. Call my buddy and get some firearms. The Devil's Incarnation chuckled. I still have this little bit of ability. Don't worry. I guarantee that everyone has a rocket launcher and blow up the entire city hospital. Blow up your uncle. You're a terrorist. Li Fan angrily punched him. Calm down. If you don't allow me to use firearms, then what should I use? Cold weapons, whatever you want to use. The Devil Incarnate looked around the room and saw a pile of repair tools on the shelf in the corner. His eyes lit up, and he went forward to pick up a chainsaw. Can I use this thing? Fuck off. Li Fan was so angry that he almost peed his pants. This guy was really crazy. He clapped his hands, and a security guard came over and placed some commonly used tools on the table. The Devil Incarnate looked at it, baseball bat, crowbar, baseball bat. The Devil Incarnate rolled his eyes. What are these? Are these for kids to fight? At least give me a shotgun. If the shotgun is not possible, at least get a 7-hole shotgun. If someone dies, it will become a big case. Without waiting for Li Fan to speak, Bai Lin Luo has already explained to Huang Lei, once it becomes a big case, our next plan will be ruined. Damn, this is so frustrating. The Devil Incarnate was itching to pick up a baseball bat and licked his lips. Can I put some nails on it? That's a fucking mace. Li Fan snatched the baseball bat. The bat is made of metal, how are you going to use it? Lei, go to the warehouse and get some iron nails from that wooden bat. Okay, got it. Huang Lei nodded excitedly. Tonight, there will be a good show. Chapter 453. Lu Shaoxian was 22 years old this year. He usually had nothing to do and was lazy. When he had no money, he would take 2 dead flies and find a restaurant. After eating and drinking to his heart's content, he would throw them into the dishes and rely on this to extort some money. After spending a few days without money, he would use the same trick again. However, Lu Shaoxian might not have received much education and was a little stupid, so he chose to target only one restaurant. In the end, the boss got angry and found a few people to beat him up. Lu Xiaoshuan's source of income had been cut off, so he could only think of other ways. At this time, one of his old friends introduced him to a more reliable job, going to the hospital to be a scalper. Although he left early and returned late, he was paid 80 yuan a day for every day he stood and rested. It was not just a matter of money. Lu Shaoxian felt that he was part of the yellow uniform group now. Who would dare to offend him? Lu Shaoxian stood in front of the team with his mohawk hair sticking up and a cigarette dangling from his mouth. The patients around them were angry, but they did not dare to say anything. After all, there were so many of them. My mom has a stomachache. I need to register her for an emergency. A farmer from the countryside, carrying his elderly mother on his back, queued for a long time, but did not get a ticket number. Under the guidance of the kind-hearted person, he could only find a scalper here and buy a scalper account. It's an emergency. It looks like appendicitis. Lu Shaoxian had been working in the hospital for a while, and his eyesight had been honed. He rubbed the old lady's stomach and said directly, "Oh my God, how did you see through it so quickly?" Then, "Big brother, I'm counting on you. Can you give me a number?" The farmer begged. "Emergency, one number, 1,000, no bargaining." Lu Xiaoshuan's legs trembled. His words almost scared the old farmer to death. "What? I haven't even seen a doctor yet. Why does it cost 1,000 yuan? This year's harvest was not good. He had just married a wife and built a new tiled house. His family did not have much money. The old lady did not have medical insurance, so she had to pay for medical treatment out of her own pocket. According to the old madam, she should just prepare for her funeral and not be a burden to her son. But how could the old farmer do that? He only had one mother, so he had to carry her to the hospital. However, when he heard that it would cost 1,000 yuan to register, the old farmer's heart skipped a beat. After seeing the doctor, his few thousand yuan would not be enough. It was one thing to spend some money, but if it delayed his mother's condition, what should he do? "Are you going to buy it? If you don't want to buy it, get lost." Lu Shaoxian scolded. He couldn't be bothered to deal with this poor fellow. "Damn it, I'm so unlucky. I don't have money to see a doctor." He cursed, and the old farmer immediately knelt down in front of him. "Big brother, please help me. I don't have that much money on me. I still have to save it for my mother's medical expenses." The old farmer begged bitterly, but Lu Shaoxian gave him a slap. "Get lost. If you can't afford it, then get lost." Lu Shaoxian wasn't polite at all. When dealing with this bunch of stinking scoundrels without money, he couldn't be polite at all. He was now a businessman, and everything was about business. What is the art of doing business? Everything is easy when you have money. Without money, we're all screwed. Lu Shaoxian thought that he was doing a good business. The old farmer was also scared out of his wits. The burly farmer couldn't help but hug his head and cry bitterly. But at this moment, a hand was placed on Lu Xiaoshuan's shoulder. "What, do you want to buy a ticket?" Lu Shaoxian turned around and saw a man wearing a black coat standing behind him. He was wearing a black cap, a black mask, and his eyes were smeared with black paint. His whole person seemed to be hidden in the darkness. His left hand was placed on his shoulder, and his right hand was holding a black brass knuckle. Lu Shaoxian recognized this thing. In his side, it was commonly known as a hand support. But the hand support of this guy in front of him seemed a bit special. It was beautifully gilded with a circle of small diamonds. Behind him stood 3 men dressed in the same black attire. 2 of them were about the same height, and both of them were holding a black metal bat, while the other one was taller and burly. He was carrying a huge wooden stick on his shoulder. There were a lot of nails on it, like a mace. "What the hell is this? What do you want?" Without waiting for Lu Shaoxian to finish his question, the hand bracelet inlaid with beautiful diamond fragments had already solidly hit his chin. Severe pain hit him. Lu Shaoxian felt like his chin was hit head-on by a car. His whole body spun and flew out, followed by a few broken teeth. The group of scalpers behind him were all stunned. Everything happened too fast, like a flash of lightning. The one who punched was none other than Li Fan. He bent down and took out a registration slip from Lu Xiaoshuan's body. He handed it to the old farmer. Thank you for your kindness. The old farmer was overwhelmed with gratitude. Li Fan waved him off, telling him to hurry and bring his mother to the doctor. Who are you people? We are from the Yellow Uniform Group. Do you dare provoke us? The scalpers from the Yellow Uniform Group shouted. They glared at Li Fan as if they wanted to scare Li Fan's group away with their stares. However, Li Fan and the other three did not say a word. With Li Fan in the lead, he clenched his fists and slowly walked toward the scalpers. The Devil's Incarnation and the two brothers, Lu Chang and Lu Zhuang, quickly followed. The two of them were like hungry wolves charging into a flock of sheep. The baseball bats in their hands were swung into a crescent moon shape, continuously hitting the scalpers. The sound of bones breaking and the screams of pain lingered in the air. The surrounding patients were shocked. What was going on? More than 10 men were being beaten up by 4 men in black? 3 or 4 of them wanted to run away, but the Devil's Incarnation, who was strolling around the periphery, used the mace in his hand to hit each of their thighs. All of them fell to the ground. Li Fan and his 3 companions could almost be said to be beating up the scalpers, making them wail like ghosts and howl like wolves, screaming incessantly. Those who wanted to get up and run were slapped back to the ground by the Devil's Incarnation. The nails on the mace cut into their flesh, causing them great pain and losing their ability to move. This state of chaos lasted for a whole 5 minutes. Soon, the sound of police sirens could be heard from outside. Li Fan whistled and the 4 of them walked out of the back door of the hospital unhurriedly. An old van with a license plate was parked outside the door. The door was already open. Li Fan and the rest sat in the van. Huang Lei immediately stepped on the accelerator. The van was like a hungry sow that had just been released from its cage. It sped away, leaving 2 rows of tire marks on the ground. The car drove into the darkness of the night as if it had never appeared before. 3 days passed. Wang Baiqiang from the Yellow Uniform Group was about to explode. In these 3 days, his men had been ambushed countless times. Hospitals, bars, train stations, etc. No matter where he had arranged his forces, they had all been attacked crazily in just 3 days. Chapter 454. Just the 4 of them. Just the 4 of them. The 4 of them were like ghosts. Like rabid dogs. Every night, the 4 of them would appear out of nowhere and launch sneak attacks on the Yellow Shirt Syndicate's territory. This group of people, after beating up the scalpers in the hospital, immediately went to smash the bar they were watching. The scalpers at the train station, the patrolling at the market, the drug dealers at the bathhouse, no matter which force it was, as long as they belonged to the Yellow Shirt Syndicate, they would suffer a devastating blow. It was not that Wang Baiqiang was not angry, it was not that he did not want to interfere, but he could not. He only had so many men under him. Even if he could strengthen the security of one place, he could not strengthen all of them. The Yellow Shirt Syndicate's forces were too spread out. The 4 of them were like ghosts and their movements were irregular. There was no telling who they would attack next and where they would attack. The Yellow Shirt Syndicate members were on tenterhooks. Many members of the Yellow Uniform Regiment could not take it anymore. Many of them were so scared that they quit the Yellow Uniform Regiment. Although they could earn money, it was not enough to treat their own injuries. The Yellow Shirt Syndicate had suffered heavy losses. Brother Baiqiang, we're all brothers. Although there's a misunderstanding, how could I do such a thing? He called Yang Ruining, and this young master of the Vanguard team expressed his condolences with a smile. If you need compensation, I'm willing to fork out some. Scram, motherfucker. If I find out you're the one who did this, I won't let you off. Wang Baiqiang was losing his mind. He felt like he could go berserk at any moment. Brother, Mr. Sun is coming back soon. A subordinate beside him could not help but remind him. There's a plague in Australia. Mr. Sun said he's coming back to hide. Motherfucker, how am I going to explain this to Uncle? Wang Baiqiang was even angrier when he heard that. Who's messing with me? Who is it? There are so many of you and you've been beaten up so many times. Don't you know who they are? I'm sorry, brother. The underling's face was full of shame. Those 4 people came and went like the wind. After beating people up, they left. Moreover, these 4 people's skills are not bad. We found some experts to suppress them, but they were all defeated. Useless. All of you are fucking useless. Wang Baiqiang roared. Get me the knife. Ah. The underling was shocked. Really want him back? Don't you understand Chinese? Wang Baiqiang grabbed the lackey's head with both hands. Find him. I want him to tear off their skin. But his case is too big. He's still hiding in the countryside. Didn't Big Brother personally order that he can't show his face for 10 years? Can't you learn from others? Wear a hat and a mask, understand? Wang Baiqiang gave him a kick. I raised a bunch of idiots. Hurry up and do it for me. Yes, Big Brother. The subordinate didn't dare to hesitate. He left Wang Baiqiang's office and immediately drove a black Camry out of the city. Along the way, he was very nervous, and his hands that were holding the steering wheel were trembling slightly. He only drove to 30 miles per hour, hoping that the road would be longer. But no matter how long it took, it would eventually come to an end. The Camry drove all the way to the Golden Village below City A. This Golden Village was a mix of urban and rural areas, and the people living there were very chaotic. Many criminals who had committed major and minor crimes in other places would live here incognito. And this was the purpose of the underling. He parked the Camry in front of a bungalow. After getting out of the car, there were 2 big men squatting next to it, smoking. One of them even glanced at him. The Yellow Uniform Regiment is handling matters. Unrelated people, get lost. The underling only said this casually, and the 2 big men immediately threw down their cigarettes, turned around, and left. The underling curled his lips, tidied up his clothes, and walked into the dilapidated small courtyard. The door of the courtyard was unlocked, and the door of the room inside was also unlocked. The underling frowned, pushed the door open, and entered. Dust and a stench assaulted his face. Fuck! The underling coughed twice, choking on the dust, and the stench made him breathless. And at this moment, a cold muzzle was pressed against the underling's chin. Who asked you to come? A voice appeared in the underling's ear, and he hurriedly said, Brother Baiqiang asked me to come. The man put away the gun, and the underling finally heaved a sigh of relief. When he turned his head, he almost peed his pants. On the bed next to him, there was a slightly rotten female corpse. The stench was slowly emitting from it. Not bad, my girl, right? A dark and thin short man stood beside him, holding a 54 big black star in his hand. He grinned at the underling, his mouth full of yellow teeth. At first, she didn't like me, so I could only forcefully bring her back. The dark and thin man licked his lips. She's living quite well. Do you want to try? Forget it. That's good. If you like her, I can only kill you too. The dark and thin man said gently to the woman, Look at you, there's a guest, and you don't know how to put on some clothes. He turned his head and said to the underling, My woman is a little willful, please accommodate her. Don't look at her or I'll dig your eyes out. The underling felt goosebumps in his heart. He did not dare to look at the rotten female corpse anymore, and quickly moved his gaze to the window. It was snowing outside the window. It seemed that it would be difficult to walk back. Brother Baiqiang wants you to go back? Didn't he not let me go out? I'll listen to Brother Baiqiang. The dark and thin man was called Dao Zi, and he was one of Wang Baiqiang's right-hand men. This person was very ruthless, and he also knew some martial arts. He helped Wang Baiqiang do a lot of dirty work. But later, this kid committed a big crime. He had a dispute with a bathing girl, and then he killed all the people in the bathing pool and raped and killed their girl. This matter was directly determined to be a big case. Wang Baiqiang tried his best to protect his right-hand man, and tried his best to send him to Russia to hide for a while. Recently, he returned to City A and hid for a period of time. But he did not expect that he had to get him out now, just to settle everything before Mr. Sun came back. If it wasn't to give Mr. Sun an explanation, perhaps Big Brother would not have found this lunatic at all. Brother Baiqiang is looking for you. Don't let him wait too long. The underling could no longer stand the stench in the room. If he stayed for one more second, he would vomit out of disgust. Got it, I'll say goodbye to my girlfriend first. Otherwise, if I leave for too long, she will definitely miss me. With that, Dao Zi leaned down and kissed the female corpse's mouth affectionately. Chapter 455. Murong-ing had not been home for 5 days. For the past 5 days, Li Fan had been living alone in the empty house. Needless to say, he was not used to it. In the past few days, other than going to class and wiping out the yellow uniform syndicate, he had also been practicing. In the past, Li Fan had thought that he had reached the limit of his external skills. But now he realized that his external skills were far from enough. The key was how to perfectly combine the external force with the internal force and evolve a new martial art of his own. Lu Jinchan was nothing. If he could do it, then so could he. Who said that high school students could only learn to do test papers and play games. He could do more. But practicing martial arts was not something that could be mastered in 2 or 3 days. When one reached Li Fan's level, it was even more difficult to improve. Li Fan had already practiced a few times. He stood in the training room on the 3rd floor of his house and exhaled. He felt that he was one step closer to the strength he wanted. He turned to look at the moon outside. It seemed that it was time to get busy. The past few nights had been crazier than usual. For the yellow uniform group, the past few nights had been nothing short of a nightmare. The yellow uniform syndicate had many forces in City A. Almost all of the shady deals were controlled by the yellow uniform syndicate. This was originally the yellow uniform syndicate's proudest achievement, but now it had become their Achilles heel. Almost 80% of their forces had suffered a devastating blow. There were still 20% who survived, but no one knew where the 4 crazy bastards would attack next. Wang Baiqiang's underling stood in the city hospital, looking at Dao, who was smoking ice on the stool. The dark and skinny pervert's eyelids were twitching slightly. The underling could not understand, was this guy here to watch over the place or to enjoy himself? Are you sure that the 4 won't come here? The underling asked because he felt that Dao did not take today's mission to heart. He did not know why his big brother would trust this lunatic. To the underling, instead of hiring this lunatic, it was better to hire some professional fighters to kill those 4 bastards. Don't worry, they will definitely come. Knife opened its eyes and sucked in the ice on its blade. No one knew if he was delusional or if he was still rational. How can you be sure? Yes. Knife laughed strangely. They will definitely come. What a lunatic. The little brother was speechless. If it wasn't for his big brother telling him to look after this madman, he really wouldn't want to stay with him for even a minute. He had to keep his distance from this kind of person. They're almost here, the saber was still whispering, its voice sounding like a moan. The underling couldn't help but roll his eyes. Fuck, what the fuck would they do? They had visited this city hospital twice. Almost all the people were killed and the remaining people were scared away. Those who continued to work as scalpers today were all brave. Correspondingly, the price of the registration had also doubled. The extra money was all earned by the scalper. If it wasn't for the money, no one would dare to do it. As the saying goes, people die for wealth and birds die for food. Knife suddenly became agitated, and his eyelids twitched even more violently. Coming. They're coming. The underling wanted to curse. Fuck, are you fucking orgasmic? Just when the underling was suppressing his anger, the door of the city hospital was suddenly pushed open. 4 men in black walked in. The leader had a pair of diamond-studded braces on his hands. Behind him were 2 men with flat-top haircuts holding baseball bats. The last one was a strong man carrying a mace stained with blood. The underling was stunned for a moment. Looking at them, they should be the 4 people mentioned before. How did this psycho predict it? The 4 of them had actually come. What the fuck? There were almost no people in this city hospital, and these 4 madmen actually wanted to have sex. After this, no scalpers would dare to come to the city hospital in the future. Ruthless. Even if they were enemies, the underling had to praise them. These 4 opponents were indeed ruthless. They were the only ones who could be so ruthless. These fellows had definitely come prepared. Moreover, their plan was thorough. It was complete. Who were they working for? Interesting. The four of you are really interesting. Knife licked his knife crazily, as if he was getting excited. All of you don't move. I want to enjoy the four of them alone. Knife screamed. A strong scalper seemed to want to make a contribution. He took out 2 axes from his back and roared as he charged forward. Behind him, a hand suddenly grabbed his head, blocking his way. At the same time, the other hand held a knife and slid it across his throat. Blood gushed out from the man's neck. He knelt on the ground, clutching his neck, and gurgling sounds came from his mouth. The people around were frightened. This guy was too crazy. Furthermore, it was too ferocious. That scalper was also a good fighter. He would have no problem fighting 1 or 2 people at a time. But at this moment, his neck was slit by a knife. The scalpers were so scared that they peed their pants. The underling was also trembling. Who would not be afraid of this psycho who would even kill his own people? Who dares to interfere? Whoever dares to interfere will die. Knife screamed as he pounced on the person opposite him. This kind of powerful guy was like a hunting dog, inspiring awe and respect. On the other hand, the leading man on the opposite side directly swung his fist and accurately hit Dao Dao's cheek. Bam! Knife's head was directly twisted 180 degrees, and all his teeth were knocked out. He fell to the ground and died. This saber was killed in a single exchange. The underling was dumbfounded. That was Big Brother's trump card. Now he was killed. Each of you, 1 leg. Li Fan ordered softly, and the 3 people behind him immediately pounced forward like wolves and tigers, breaking the legs of the scalpers who were still running out to earn money without caring about their lives. Even the underling was not spared. His right leg was also broken, and he lay on the ground in pain. Until now, this little brother still couldn't understand why Big Brother had brought back the knife. Just as Li Fan and the rest were about to leave, the door of the hospital was suddenly pushed open, and more people came in from the outside. Wang Baiqiang led a group of elites, each with an axe, staring at the 4 people in the lobby like tigers watching their prey. At some point in time, there were no other patients in the lobby of the hospital. Wang Baiqiang looked at Li Fan with a cigarette in his mouth and sneered. Damn, I knew it. Knife's premonition is definitely right. Today, this hospital has been cleared by me. None of the 4 of you can escape. Chapter 456. The only reason why Wang Baiqiang had brought the knife back was because his premonition was always accurate. However, he didn't expect this guy to die. So what if he died? He had already done his best for him. The 200 people behind me are all elites that I've spent a lot of money to nurture. Wang Baiqiang had already made up his mind. Tonight, he would kill these 4 guys who had caused him such a huge loss. His uncle was coming back, and he had to give him an explanation. Whoever can take down these 4 people's heads, I'll reward him with $1 million. With a great reward, there would always be brave men. Before Wang Baiqiang could even finish his sentence, a group of hatchet-wielding hatchets rushed forward with a howl. It was as if in their eyes, these 4 people were not fierce fighters, but a pile of gold, silver, and jewels. However, the leader took a step back and gave up his position to the 3 people behind him. It was like a test. The 3 of them did not just stand there. They immediately turned around and ran. The 4 of them passed through the lobby and came to a corridor. At this point, the 4 of them finally stopped. 2 men with flat-top haircuts stood in front. They tossed the metal bats aside and pulled out a Nepalese army knife from their waists. The other hand pulled out a tri-edge bayonet. Guan Wenbao had taught them some knife techniques, and the 2 brothers, Lu Chang and Lu Zhuang, were the most serious about learning. Their usual hard work would not betray their master. The 2 of them used the narrow corridor as an entrance, waving the knives in their hands and chopping down the yellow uniform regiment fighters in front of them. The corridor was narrow. When it was inconvenient to swing their knives, the 2 of them would stab the people in front of them with their bayonets. Tonight would be the final battle. Facing so many fierce enemies, it was not the time to hold back. Whoever showed mercy would be the one to die. The 2 brothers, Lu Chang and Lu Zhuang, had good stamina. After fighting for a full 5 minutes, they were only sweating a little. They were still blocking the group of screaming yellow uniform regiment elites. Guan Wenbao taught them some breathing techniques and body hardening techniques, which allowed them to fight continuously and reduce their fatigue. However, there was always a limit to what they could do. The two of them had killed more than 40 thugs, but there were still more thugs behind them. Moreover, many of the thugs had begun to circle behind them, preparing to attack them from both sides. The devil's incarnation had been sitting on the ground behind him. He placed cans wrapped in yellow paper on the ground and then connected them to the fuses on them. Although he had a fiery temper, his technique was very meticulous. These were all earthen explosives that he had made himself. They were not particularly powerful, but they were not weak either. The devil's incarnation looked at the time and lit a cigarette. The door at the back of the corridor was kicked open. Dozens of thugs from the yellow uniform regiment roared as they charged in. Every one of them had ferocious, excited, and manic expressions on their faces. They seemed to want to tear these 4 people into pieces. There were so many thugs, and the corridor behind them was relatively wide. If they charged over, the 4-man team would be instantly drowned. The devil incarnate took a puff of his cigarette and smiled at those who rushed over. "Happy New Year." With that, he lit the fuse with his cigarette. The fuse burned very quickly. Almost in the blink of an eye, the fuse ignited all the earthen explosives. Boom! A series of explosions sounded, and the fireworks instantly engulfed those thugs. The strong explosion caused the hospital to tremble. However, the devil's incarnation had strictly calculated the amount of explosives so that it would not endanger the safety of the hospital. However, this was also done under Li Fan's forceful request. Otherwise, for the devil's incarnation, he would not care about the life and death of the people in this hospital. After the smoke signal passed, countless people were lying on the ground. Those who died were missing arms and legs. Those who survived were accompanied by moans. The devil's incarnation glanced at the tunnel that was blown up and said to Li Fan, "It's done. Okay, you guys go first." Li Fan waved his hand. The devil's incarnation and the 2 brothers, Lu Chang and Lu Zhuang, immediately left through the tunnel. Li Fan stood in front of the tunnel, guarding the entrance alone. The remaining thugs retracted their gaze from the corpses of their companions. There was only one person left. How could he block the remaining hundreds of people? These people have already squeezed in. Each of them wanted to stab Li Fan. Each of them wanted to kill him and get that damned 1 million yuan. Li Fan just stood there, watching these people rush in front of him. He was like a door god. Every time he punched and kicked, he would knock out the nearby thugs. He did not feel tired at all. No one could get within 1 meter of him. This is Li Fan's strength. No one can beat him. Wang Baiqiang, without anyone knowing, came over. Seeing that half of his elites were crippled, he flew into a rage. "Are you fucking stupid? Throw the axes, throw him to death." With that, those thugs immediately threw the axes in their hands, trying to chop Li Fan to death. These axes flew towards Li Fan. But Li Fan waved his fists. Using only his brass knuckles, he deflected all the axes away. Every punch was as fast as lightning. Every punch was as heavy as lightning. Wang Baiqiang was dumbfounded. What is going on? What kind of person is this? He's just a mortal, but he can use his fists to block so many axes. Is this guy even human? Li Fan calculated the time. "I can't play with you anymore." Yellow Clothes Regiment, your history is over. Over? My fucking Yellow Clothes Regiment will rule over a city. Wang Baiqiang roared. But at this moment, Wang Baiqiang heard the sound of a police siren. Help is here. Li Fan laughed and ran out of the tunnel. Outside the tunnel, it was still a corridor. The hospital was huge and the road was long. But with one slap, Li Fan shattered the wall in front of him. The corridor could not stop him. After a few rounds and smashing a few walls, he had already left the hospital. It was moonlight outside and the sound of police sirens could be heard. With such a big case, the city's hospital would not be peaceful that night. The devil's incarnation and the other 2 had already left in a car. Li Fan, on the other hand, was more convenient. With a few steps, he climbed up the hospital building and landed on the rooftop. With a leap, he somersaulted in the air and landed on the rooftop of a motel 50 meters away. Standing there, Li Fan observed the scene below. The riot police rushed into the hospital with loaded guns and subdued the thugs from the Yellow Clothes Regiment. Wang Baiqiang could only kneel on the ground with his hands raised. He was knocked to the ground by one of the riot police. Chapter 457. Wang Baiqiang could not explain himself this time. More than 30 people died in the city hospital, and more than 100 were injured. Moreover, the hospital was full of holes. This kind of case could not be covered up even if they wanted to. The matter was too big. There were too many casualties, and the local officials would be affected. An earth-shattering case swept through City A. The top 100 is too exaggerated this time. Sun Jiaoyang was wearing a Chinese tunic suit, sitting on the sofa in the villa. He had a pipe in his mouth and was holding today's newspaper in his hand. Sun Jiaoyang was born in the streets in his early years, but it was different now. After he had money and power, he slowly cleaned up his identity. Now, he was a major shareholder of a listed company, and several of his shareholders were important government officials. As long as he could make these shareholders pay, then he could exchange for a good career. Sun Jiaoyang was now a famous taxpayer in City A. He was an advanced entrepreneur and a regional representative. Soon he could become a politician. All he needed was time and opportunity. He came back here to hand over the yellow uniform gang to Wang Baiqiang. Because from tomorrow onwards, Sun Jiaoyang would be completely cut off from the yellow uniform gang. But he could not abandon the yellow uniform gang. After all, it was a very convenient method for him. He only needed to control his nephew. This way, his identity would be clean and he could have his own influence in the underworld. The yellow uniform gang was the key. But he did not expect that once he came back, everything seemed to be different. The yellow uniform gang had lost control. No, it could no longer be described as losing control. The yellow uniform gang had been completely destroyed. Even the top 100 had been locked up in prison. No matter how capable he was, he could not help them. This time, he would have to sit in prison until he died. Who did it? Sun Jiaoyang asked as he read the newspaper. I don't know. The lackey with a broken leg sat in a wheelchair. His face was full of fear. Those 4 people? They are too powerful. We have more than 200 yellow-clothed assassins. We are not a match for the 4 of them at all. These 4 people know when to advance and when to retreat. They are quite organized. They must have come prepared. Sun Jiaoyang looked at the big case reported in the newspaper and said slowly, as long as we find out who wants to deal with us, we can naturally see the true faces of these 4 people. Mr. Sun, there are too many people who want to deal with us. Let's not talk about anything else. Even the Red Dragon Society and the Vanguard Army are against us. These 2 sects? Sooner or later, everyone will fight against each other. Sun Jiaoyang was indeed a person who did big things, and his mind was very clear. But they won't do this. In this way, everyone in City A will feel insecure, and the police will also increase the strength of punishment, which is not good for anyone. Moreover, even the top 100 had been implicated. This went against the principles of the 3 families. Although little girl Lu and Yang Ruining are more ambitious, they wouldn't dare to do that. Then I really don't know who it is. Did the Yellow Uniform Regiment make any more enemies recently? Sun Jiaoyang asked. There's no one else. The underling couldn't figure out who they had offended. The Yellow Uniform Group would have conflicts with other forces in many places. Recently, the nearer the better. Sun Jiaoyang's voice carried a kind of gentle power. Who has the Yellow Uniform Regiment had a conflict with? He had some conflicts with one of Miss Lu Xinan's favorites. The underling said honestly, although the other party is only a high school student, he seems to be quite good at fighting. Miss Lu really admires him. A high school student? Sun Jiaoyang lightly tapped his pipe. Regarding this high school student, what conflict did the Yellow Uniform Regiment have with him? Our Yellow Uniform Regiment. It's your Yellow Uniform Regiment. Sun Jiaoyang reminded, don't call him by the wrong name next time. Yes, Mr. Sun. The underling quickly changed his words. The scalper that our yellow uniform regiment had at the city hospital was beaten up by him. Also, the market in the old city was also taken by him. But other than us, Mr. Sam from America was also interested in him and asked us for some information about him. I understand. Sun Jiaoyang nodded. Find a time, I want to talk to this high school student. Ah. The underling was a little surprised. Who was Mr. Sun to lower himself to talk to a high school student? Go, help me arrange this. Yes, I understand. The underling nodded and went to do it on Mr. Sun's behalf. At the same time, Murong Ing finally arrived at Mount Wudong along the Luo Horse Trail. It was not yet the 15th, so it was still considered the new year. Even on this quiet Mount Wudong, there were red lanterns hanging everywhere. It was a festive atmosphere. Light snow was still falling on Mount Wudong. The white snow and the red lanterns reflected each other, adding a sense of mystery. Murong Ing followed the Wudong disciple along the small path at the back of the mountain, all the way to the main hall of Mount Wudong. The largest hall of Mount Wudong was the true martial hall, which was bustling with pilgrims. Naturally, Murong Ing would not go to the true martial hall. Instead, she followed the young Wudong disciple to a small courtyard. There was a huge stone chessboard in the courtyard. Two people sat facing each other, seemingly playing a game. The red side was an old Taoist wearing a light white robe. He had a sage-like demeanor, as if he was an immortal descending to the mortal world. The old Taoist was sitting cross-legged, holding a horsetail whisk in one hand and pointing at the chessboard with the other, as if he was thinking about his next move. The black side was an old monk with a bald head and white eyebrows. This old monk had a pair of long eyebrows that hung down from the corners of his eyes to his shoulders. It could be said that his appearance was enviable. The two of them sat on opposite sides of the chessboard. With a wave of their palms, they used their internal energy to move the chess pieces to play. That stone chess piece was as big as a millstone. But in the hands of these two experts, it danced in the air and moved freely. The two of them exchanged blows, invisibly killing each other. They were not only competing in chess skills, but also in their internal energy. When little snow met the two of them, it fell to the side and did not touch him. The young disciple brought Murong Ing with him and was about to report the situation, but Murong Ing stopped him. There was no reason for her to disturb the two experts playing chess. This old Taoist was the sect leader of Mount Wudong, Taoist priest Wuji. And the one opposite him was the abbot of Shaolin Temple, Great Master Yu Su. Both of them were venerables of the martial world, and their martial arts were also at the peak of perfection. But 5 years ago, both of them were defeated by Murong Ying's sword. But the two of them did not feel that there was anything wrong with it. Instead, they treated Murong Ing as an old friend. Checkmate. Great Master Yu Su suddenly placed a chess piece, sealing off all of Wu Jizi's escape routes. This old monk wins this game. Great Master Yu Su seemed to be a little proud of himself. Chapter 458. Wu Jizi laughed and straightened the crown on his head. Master Yu Su, you're too photogenic. Amitba. A loss is a loss. Stop looking for excuses. These two were the supremes of the pugilistic world, but now they were talking like children. Murong Ing could not help but chuckle. She cupped her hands and said, both of you are so experienced in chess, but your minds are so young. Ah, so it's Alliance Master Murong. Come in. Wu Jizi was very happy to see Murong Ing. He waved his hand, and the snow on the stone block in front of him was immediately swept away. The stone block was immediately clean, without a speck of dust. Amitba. Alliance Master Murong, I'm sorry for the neglect. Master Yu Su also put his palms together and bowed to Murong Ing. Both masters are too polite. Murong Ing sat on the stone block. The gold and silver swordsmen stood behind her like a statue. They did not say a word, nor did they look at anyone else. Murong Ing looked at Wu Jizi again. Although Wu Jizi's complexion was not bad, there was a hint of darkness in the depths of his forehead. Moreover, there was a deep haze in his eyes that could not be swept away. Just as the young Wudong disciple had said, Wu Jizi's life was coming to an end. The reason he was still alive was probably because he was relying on his Dantian Chi to hang on to his life. I've let Alliance Master Murong see a joke. Wu Jizi smiled at Murong Ing. It's not that I can't bear to part with this body. It's just that the demonic sect is in power and is watching from the foot of the mountain. If I were to ascend to heaven, how would I be able to protect the entire Wudong mountain? Wu Jizi suddenly sighed. It's a pity that I couldn't catch a glimpse of the Grandmaster realm in my lifetime. What a pity, what a pity. You're too kind. Master Yu Su returned the same words to Wu Jizi, causing Wu Jizi to chuckle. You old monk, you've become more mischievous as you get older. I don't know what kind of Buddhism you practice. Why are you regressing? Buddha is in the heart, not in appearance. Yu Su replied with a chuckle, but I'm afraid neither of us will be able to glimpse the great Tao. On the other hand, Alliance Master Murong has already comprehended what it means to be a Grandmaster, right? I wouldn't dare to comprehend it. It's just the first glimpse. Murong Ing said modestly, compared to the two masters, I'm still far behind. Let's not flatter each other. Let's get down to business. Master Yu Su put his palms together and chanted the name of Buddha. Now is not the time to worry about the two of us. It's time to consider the people at the foot of the mountain. When I came here, I already noticed that there are many experts at the foot of the mountain. They should all be from the devil cult. It's time to teach those little bastards of the devil cult a lesson. Although Wu Jizi had a calm personality, he could not help but be angry at the current situation, which concerned the survival of Wudong sect. In particular, these people from the devil cult actually took advantage of the fact that he was about to immortalize and came to Mount Wudong to cause trouble. These people are doing this for the sake of the 9 Buddha Sutra. Master Yu Su understood their purpose very well. It's just some experience left by our predecessors, but it has stirred up a bloody storm in the pugilistic world. Master Yu Su is quite open-minded. Wu Jizi laughed. I would like to try the 9 Buddha Sutra, but the martial arts in it are too bold and unconstrained for me to control. If I learn it rashly, it will ruin my cultivation. It's not worth it. It's not worth it. Wu Jizi sighed. Yu Su nodded. If I cultivate it recklessly, it will breed inner demons. By the way, speaking of inner demons, I heard that benefactor Jiang Feng of Murong Villa has comprehended the unity of mind and demon. Congratulations. I'm sorry. Also, Alliance Master Murong's fiancée is said to have the talent to change bones. It's a miracle in the pugilistic world that 3 flowers have bloomed in Murong Villa. Maybe Murong Villa will break the current structure of the pugilistic world. Master Yu Su said slowly, maybe we will usher in a new pugilistic world. Yu Su and Wu Jizi looked at each other and saw regret in each other's eyes. It was a pity that they were old and could not see the new pugilistic world. I wish I could live for another 10 years. Unfortunately, the 3 pure ones are summoning me. Wu Jizi sat on a stone block, as if he had become one with Wudong Mountain. Looking at him, Murong Ing felt as if she was looking at an immortal. As for what the pugilistic world would be like in the future, even Murong Ing did not know. She knew the current pugilistic world. Shaolin and Wudong were the 2 major sects that controlled the pugilistic world. Then there were the North and South villas that controlled the economic lifeline of the pugilistic world. Then there were the 4 major alliances. None of the 4 alliance leaders were ordinary people. Each of them was full of ambition. With them around, no one knew when the pugilistic world would be thrown into chaos. Moreover, there was the devil cult that was ready to make trouble. After so many years, the fake peace in the pugilistic world was about to end. Just as the 3 of them were about to chat for a while, a disciple of Wudong rushed up the mountain and cupped his hands at them. Greetings, Alliance Leader Murong, Master Yu Su. After saying that, he reported to his sect leader. Sect leader, the people of the devil cult have come up. They have already occupied the mountainside and are still advancing up the mountain. It seems that the devil cult can't hold back anymore. They probably know that my time is up. Wu Jizi looked down the mountain and said, let the pilgrims leave Wudong Mountain temporarily. I'm afraid it won't be peaceful for a period of time. Master Yu Su, Alliance Leader Murong, I'm so incompetent that I actually had to invite the two of you here. Don't say that. The affairs of the pugilistic world are my affairs. Master Yu Su was open-minded. I've long wanted to meet Li Wei. Master Wu Jizi has given me a chance today. Murong Ing instructed the gold and silver swordsman. The two of you stay by Master Wu Jizi's side, understand? Yes, miss. The gold and silver swordsman nodded at the same time. Alliance leader Murong, you don't have to do that. Wu Jizi seemed to want to refuse, but Murong Ing waved her hand and said, Master Wu Jizi, you don't have to refuse. Your life is the key to Wudong Mountain. If anything happens to you, I'm afraid the people of the devil cult will have their wish fulfilled. The most important thing now is to stabilize the devil cult. Alliance leader Murong, you're right. I was too naive. Wu Jizi nodded and said, since I've already invited the two of you here today, I might as well ask the two of you to help me to the end. Oh, Yu Su, I didn't mean it. You stinky Taoist. Forget it. In that case, let's invite the friends of the devil cult up. Everyone, please follow me to the true martial hall. Chapter 459. Li Wei. There was only one person with that name. Many years ago, he wasn't called that. 10 years ago, there was only one person named Li Qinghe in the pugilistic world. He was originally a monk in the Shaolin Temple, but he later left and joined the cult. At that time, the cult was not like it was now. There were more than 100 cults of various sizes in the pugilistic world. Every cult master was capricious and fought with each other for hundreds of years without making any progress. Until Li Qinghe appeared. He created the blood flame palm print, and used this move to defeat all the experts of the devil cult. He unified the devil cult at that time and cultivated 108 devil cult elders, consolidating his rule. Some people said that Li Qinghe was the next Lu Jinshan. Back then, Lu Jinshan appeared and unified the World Alliance. Li Qinghe's appearance also unified the cult. The two of them were very similar in many ways. After Li Qinghe unified the cult, he felt that his name was too elegant. Hence, he changed his name to Li Wei to show that he was the only one in the world and that he was different from Lu Jinshan. At this moment, Li Wei was wearing a black suit and a red tie. He stood in the true martial hall and looked at the three martial arts experts in front of him. The three of you are indeed impressive. Li Wei said calmly, however, Taoist Wuzi, I'm afraid you won't be able to survive tonight. It's a pity. I heard that your yin-yang extreme hand shocked the martial arts world. I wanted to see it. I still have some strength. Why don't I spar with you, Leader Li? Wu Jizi chuckled and said, I guarantee that you'll be satisfied. There's no need to test your skills. Li Wei was expressionless when he said that. That's because your skills are weaker than mine. I'll be able to defeat you in less than 10 moves. Leader Li, you're really arrogant. Even though Wu Jizi had a good personality, he was infuriated by his words. I'm not arrogant, I'm just speaking the truth. Li Wei said calmly with his hands behind his back. Among the three of you, Taoist Wuzi is already at his limit. It's already impressive that he can exchange 10 moves with me. As for Master Yu Su, his internal energy is strong, so he can exchange 20 to 30 moves with me. As for Alliance Master Murong, I'll be able to decide who's stronger within 50 moves. How arrogant! Murong Ing crossed her arms and ridiculed the cult leader of the evil cult in front of her. I don't know if your sect master was also promoted by your mouth. If it's possible, I do want to compete with Guild Master Murong. Before Li Wei could finish speaking, Murong Ing suddenly appeared in front of him. At the same time, Murong Ing stabbed Li Wei's glabella with 2 fingers. Murong pointed her sword. Murong Ing made her move. Clang. Li Wei suddenly opened a black fan and used it to block his face from Murong Ying's fingers. Clang. Murong Ying's sword finger was actually blocked. Li Wei's true qi had already been cultivated to such a level. It was just a paper fan, but it was harder than steel. However, Murong Ing wasn't surprised at all. Li Wei was the cult leader of the evil cult, and she knew what he was capable of. All of a sudden, A large amount of cherry blossom sword chi erupted from Murong Ying's fingers and struck the black fan. Li Wei's fan was pushed away by the cherry blossom sword chi, but he continued to wave the fan to block the cherry blossom sword chi. Not bad, I've finally seen the legendary cherry blossom sword chi. Li Wei chuckled and continued, however, it's still lacking a little. He then pushed his right hand forward. Murong Ying frowned and placed her palms in front of her. A gust of true chi rose up, and Murong Ying's body was sent flying. She slid more than 3 meters away before she managed to stabilize her footing. Alliance Master Murong, your martial arts are indeed impressive, but I'm not here to spar with you today. Li Wei put away his black fan and said, I just have something to discuss with you. We have nothing to say to the evil cult. Wu Jizi said directly, do you want the 9 Buddha Sutra? I'm really sorry, but I won't give it to you even if I have to bury it with me. The 9 Buddha Sutra is something that I must obtain no matter what. Even if you're unwilling, it's not up to you. Since Leader Li has sworn not to get the 9 Buddha Sutra, why did you come to Wudong Mountain? Master Yu Su asked with his palms pressed together. It's very simple. I need the support of the 3 of you. Li Wei was very straightforward. I want to become the Emperor of the martial arts world. The Emperor of the martial arts world? Stop joking. A disciple of the Wudong sect yelled angrily, the Emperor of the martial arts world has been abolished for decades. Li Wei waved his hand, and the disciple of the Wudong sect flew out and hit the pillar of the true martial hall. The pillar cracked, and he spat out a mouthful of blood. Since when did you have the right to speak here? It's not your place to teach a disciple of the Wudong sect a lesson. Wu Jizi immediately leaped over and slapped Li Wei. The Yin-Yang Extreme Musician was the complete version of the Dragon Extreme Musician. The combination of Yin and Yang was the strongest. However, Li Wei did not react and simply stood there, facing Wu Jizi's palm. Bang! Wu Jizi's body flew out like a kite with a broken string. Master Yu Su stood behind and caught Wu Jizi's body with one hand. He spun him around in the air and removed the force from his body before putting him down and stabilizing his body. However, Li Wei did not move at all and stood firmly. Wu Jizi spat out a mouthful of blood and looked even more pale. Taoist priest, why are you so anxious? I just taught him a little lesson. I didn't kill him. Li Wei raised his voice. When Lu Jinchan became the leader of the world, he abolished the rule of the Emperor of the martial arts world. However, from today onwards, I'm going to reinstate this rule. I'm naturally the most suitable person to be the Emperor. The Emperor of the martial arts world was the supreme ruler of the world. He was the true number 1 in the pugilistic world back then. Everyone in the pugilistic world had to submit to the Emperor. Once the Emperor of the martial arts world issued the Golden Jade token, the heroes in the world would not dare to disobey. It was only when Lu Jinchan became the leader of the World Alliance that the absurd rule of the Emperor of the martial arts world was abolished. Times had changed, and there was no need for an emperor in this era. No one will obey you. Wu Jizi wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth and warned Li Wei. You will only become a great enemy of the pugilistic world. I will become the emperor. Li Wei smiled confidently. As long as the 3 of you support me, it will be fine. Chapter 460. Wishful Thinking. Murong Ying sneered. Why should we support a devil like you? Because you have to, Li Wei said and clapped his hands gently. Behind him, a woman in a dark gray cloak slowly walked out and stood there. The woman's face was hidden under the cloak, and it was hard to see what she looked like. However, there was a dangerous aura emanating from her body. The gold and silver swordsmen, who were originally standing beside Wu Jizi, suddenly widened their eyes in unison, after which the gold and silver swords on their backs flew into the air and shot towards the woman. However, Li Wei stretched out his folding fan and blocked the gold and silver swords. Murong Ying had already understood something. She immediately pinched her nose and yelled, "Everyone, don't breathe." The gold and silver swordsmen were a pair of sharp weapons created by the Murong family. Not only did the 2 of them learn the long-lost Yin and Yang swords, but they also had a unique talent. which was to smell the poisonous fog in the air. The two of them must have sensed that there was poison when they suddenly attacked. That was why Murong-ing had made such a decisive decision and asked everyone to hold their breaths. Li Wei clapped his hands gently and said, "Alliance Master Murong, I didn't expect you to be able to tell. However, it's too late." He pointed at the woman in the cloak beside him and continued, "Let me introduce Song Fuya, the former clan master of the Medicine King Valley's Een Gate. She's now my left protector. Her poison is an improved cultivation dissipation powder. It's invisible and colorless, and it spreads through the air." Wu Jizi and Master Yu Su simultaneously activated their internal energy, only to realize that their seas of energy were empty and they couldn't muster any strength at all. Murong-ing was unable to activate her cultivation either. Even though she reacted quickly, she still managed to absorb some of the improved cultivation dissolving powder in the blink of an eye. If you don't get the antidote, none of you will be able to recover your skills. Li Wei looked at the three poisoned experts in front of him with his hands behind his back. "In order to get your support, I made this decision. However, I promise that I will not mistreat you in the future. Even if we die, we won't let you get what you want." Murong-ing gritted her teeth and glared at Li Wei fiercely. "Alliance Master Murong looks really good when she's angry." Li Wei smiled and looked at Murong-ing. "I wonder how much kindness Alliance Master Murong's fiancé accumulated in his previous life. He actually has such a blessing in this life." "Amit ba." Master Yu Su put his palms together and looked slightly regretful. "When I saw you back then, your eyes were pure and you didn't look like a pervert. Now, it seems like I misjudged him back then." "Master Yu Su, your words are heartbreaking," Wang Xian said with a smile. Li Wei looked at the eminent monk in front of him and said, "I was indeed just an innocent little monk back then. Didn't I get to where I am today because of you guys? Buddha's words are not spoken. Every drink and every peck is predetermined. Master Yu Su, why are you denying the sins you have committed in the past by cultivating the Dharma in vain?" "Amit ba." Master Yu Su did not feel the slightest bit remorseful. "Since you have already entered Buddhism, you should break the mortal world. Besides, Sect Master Li, you have fallen in love with a disciple of a demonic cult. That's absolutely unacceptable." "What a load of nonsense." Li Wei humphed coldly. "My name is Li Wei, and I will become the emperor of the martial arts world. My words are the rules of the martial arts world. My words are the laws of this world." Wishful thinking. Wu Jizi, who had been sitting cross-legged at the side, suddenly opened his eyes. He instantly turned into a ray of white light and appeared in front of Li Wei. Thunder attracting righteous path. Dharma convergence. Thunder and lightning suddenly appeared on Wu Jizi's hands, and he slapped Li Wei's temples forcefully. However, Li Wei's finger had already pierced into Wu Jizi's heart. Wu Jizi stood there with his hands in front of Li Wei. His fair skin had now become charred, as if he had been burned. "Fo!" Master Yu Su chanted loudly, and the disciples of the Wu-Tang clan in the hall also sat down cross-legged with their arms crossed, as if they were sending off Taoist Wuzi, who had already ascended to immortality. Li Wei took 2 steps back and looked at Taoist Yu Jizi, who was still standing there like a statue. He couldn't help but exclaim in admiration. Taoist Wuzi is indeed formidable. He actually forcefully activated his true qi and caused it to rub violently in his body, forming the power of thunder and lightning. Unfortunately, this move can only be used once, and he was burnt by the electricity first. Wu Jizi used his last bit of vitality at the last moment to turn his true qi into thunder and lightning, but he also lost his life. He initially wanted to kill Li Wei in one move, but he didn't expect Li Wei to be 1 step ahead of him. "Li Wei, do you dare to fight me?" Murong-ing was dressed in a white jade-colored cheongsam, and her legs were extremely eye-catching. She stared at Li Wei in front of her and pulled out her sword. "Do you dare to fight me?" "Of course I dare, but now is not the time." Li Wei said arrogantly, "After all, I don't want to kill you." "Coward!" Murong-ing sneered. Li Wei was surrounded by the black and white impermanents, who were also his protectors. At this moment, Murong Ying's words made the white impermanence unable to sit still anymore. He immediately pounced forward and grabbed Murong Ying's throat with his left hand using the soul-stealing claw. The soul-stealing claw was a chokehold. Murong Ying did not have any true qi, but she simply raised her sword. Before the white impermanence's claws could touch her throat, the tip of her sword had already pierced her opponent's chest. If the white impermanence had exerted a little more force, the sword would have pierced his heart. Murong Ying was able to force the white impermanence to retreat with just a move. Impossible, how can you break through my true qi protection? The white impermanence took 2 steps back in shock. This sword has been with me for 10 years. Murong Ying held onto her long sword. Its blade has long been filled with murderous intent. It doesn't care about that little protective jinqi of yours. Damn it, I'm going to kill you. The white impermanence did not expect to lose to someone who did not have true qi. He was the protector of the black and white impermanence. Wouldn't that be too embarrassing? How would the brothers view him? How would the sect master look down on him? He couldn't take it anymore. The white impermanence stretched out his hands, and a black ray of light appeared on his palms. The soul-stealing claw was the white impermanence's famous technique. He wanted to use his famous technique to prove himself. Li Wei hollered and pressed his black fan against the white impermanence's shoulder. Stand down. Yes, sect master. The white impermanence did not dare to resist at all and immediately retreated to the side obediently. Chapter 461. Alliance Master Murong, I still have a use for you. After saying that, Li Wei went down the mountain. All the disciples of the Wu-Tang Mountain were locked up, and those who disobeyed would be killed on the spot. This was the most powerful sect in the martial arts world, but it had changed overnight. The sect leader, Wu Jizi, had ascended to immortality, and the rest of the people were all imprisoned. Only 1 or 2 of them took advantage of the chaos to escape. Li Wei returned to his own sect and left the 2 guardians behind to manage the Wu-Tang Mountain for him. Murong Ying and Master Yu Su were also locked up there, waiting for them to surrender. At this moment, Li Fan still had no idea that his fiancée was in prison. He stood at the school gate and looked at a Cadillac Escalade parked in front of him. Mr. Li, our boss would like to see you. A bodyguard in a black suit stood there and spoke to Li Fan politely. Your boss? Do I know him? Li Fan crossed his arms and looked at the guy who had popped out of nowhere. Lin Yun followed beside Li Fan and gently tugged at Li Fan's arm with a slightly fearful expression. Don't interact with such people. Although she was already following Li Fan to manage his security company, Lin Yun still couldn't help but feel a little afraid when faced with such things. It's okay, you can go back first. Li Fan gently hugged Lin Yun's shoulder lest she worried. Qingchen send Miss Lin off. Yes, big brother. An ordinary-looking man in his 30s nodded. His name was Sun Qingchen, and he was the driver that Ling Tian had chosen for Li Fan. Initially, Li Fan rejected it, but Ling Tian was right. He was no longer an ordinary high school student, and he had some status in City A. He had to be ostentatious when he went out. But being too high-profile was indeed not suitable for him. Therefore, Sun Qingchen drove a very ordinary black Audi A4, which was obviously different from the luxury version of the Escalade in front of him. Miss Lin, please. Sun Qingchen usually did not speak much and only followed some simple instructions. He opened the car door for Lin Yun. Before she got into the car, Lin Yun cast a concerned look at Li Fan. Don't worry, they won't dare to do anything in broad daylight. Li Fan watched as Lin Yun got into the Audi and was relieved. Mr. Li, please. The bodyguard also opened the door of the car for Li Fan. A middle-aged man was already sitting inside. He was wearing a Chinese tunic suit and had a pipe in his mouth. He was flipping through today's newspaper. How disappointing, I thought it would be a beauty. Li Fan sighed while the man sitting behind smiled. Now, with Brother Li's status, will it be difficult to find a few beauties? Who am I? I'm just a high school student. Li Fan stood there with a smile on his face. At this moment, a woman's voice suddenly rang in his ears. Sun Jiaoyang, the boss behind the Yellow Clothes Syndicate. He's very shrewd. Li Fan looked back and there was no one around. But why did he hear Yushi's voice? Was this girl nearby? Brother Li, my chair doesn't have any spikes. Sun Jiaoyang said again. Li Fan took off his school bag and sat in the car. Mr. Sun, you're a legendary big shot. Isn't it a little inappropriate for you to pick up a small fry like me at the school gate? Brother Li is not a small fry. Recently, you've shaken the world and are in the limelight in City A. The car was already moving slowly. Sun Jiaoyang said casually, nowadays, everyone in City A knows your name, Brother Li. Mr. Sun, you flatter me. Li Fan shrugged. I'm just an ordinary high school student, not like what Mr. Sun said. An ordinary high school student can't handle my yellow clothes syndicate. Li Fan replied naturally, I'm sorry, I've requisitioned a piece of the yellow clothes syndicate's territory in the old city. If Mr. Sun is unhappy, I'll visit you for a drink and apologize another day. Li Fan's words may seem shameless, but his answer was flawless. Sun Jiaoyang was not in a hurry as he slowly closed the newspaper. Then let's change the topic? How about talking about Sam? I'm sure you're very interested in him. Sam? Who's that? Li Fan continued to play dumb, while Sun Jiaoyang tapped his pipe in the ashtray and continued, Brother Li, it's boring like this. Let's not beat around the bush. Being honest will deepen each other's feelings. I'm the most honest person. Li Fan immediately clapped his hands and said, in the past, when I picked up 10 yuan on the road, I would give it to the teacher. It's rare to see an honest student like me. Brother Li, you're still young. Sun Jiaoyang continued, in this line of work, there's a principle. There are no eternal enemies or eternal friends, only eternal interests. He looked at Li Fan as if he wanted to persuade him. I'm only telling you this because I think you and I hit it off. After all, in City A, I still have some power. Brother, you're still young, don't ruin your own future. I don't want to go to the cemetery to visit you at this time next year. Thank you, Mr. Sun, for thinking so highly of me. Li Fan cupped his hands. However, I'm not a lucky person. I can't withstand Mr. Sun's love. Brother Li, do you mean that you're going to confront the Yellow Suit Syndicate to the end? You're really wronging me. I have no enmity with the Yellow Suit Syndicate. We're all friends. Why would we confront each other? Li Fan laughed. Moreover, I'm just a high school student. I usually have to focus on my studies. I'm just a student. Are you afraid of me, Mr. Sun? All right, I've said what I need to say. Since Brother Li is so determined, I won't force it. Sun Jiaoyang said as he gently knocked on the car window. The SUV stopped by the side of the road. The bodyguard got out of the car and opened the door for Li Fan. Brother Li, please. Then I'll take my leave, Mr. Sunday. Li Fan cupped his hands at Sun Jiaoyang. We'll never meet again. Oh right, I have something to tell Mr. Sunday. Mr. Sun has a big business and your life is precious. So, please don't make life difficult for people like us who don't have money. If we die, no one will feel sorry for us. But if anything happens to Mr. Sun, it'll be terrible. Can I take this as a threat? Sun Jiaoyang smiled at Li Fan. That depends on Mr. Sunday. Li Fan's answer was flawless. I hope Mr. Sun's career will be successful and smooth sailing. After the car started moving again, Sun Jiaoyang's face turned cold as he ordered his bodyguard. Tonight at 12 o'clock, I want extraordinary security to disappear. Chapter 462. Lin Yuten, you go home first. Li Fan sat in the office of the small building and said to Lin Yin, who was doing the accounts. Why? Lin Yuten was a little surprised. It wasn't time to get off work yet. She was still very serious and responsible when it came to work. Lin Yuen felt that Li Fan had walked into another different world. And the only bridge between him and her was the security company. Lin Yuten was a little worried. Her boyfriend's internship period hadn't ended yet, but Li Fan seemed to be getting further and further away from her. It might not be peaceful tonight. Li Fan looked out of the window. A silver van was parked there. It had been a few hours, and there was no movement from the people inside. He and Sun Jiaoyang from the Yellow Clothes group had completely fallen out. Sun Jiaoyang's high and mighty attitude made Li Fan very uncomfortable. And Sun Jiaoyang shouldn't be a good person. Tonight, he would probably bring people to destroy his security company. It seemed that a decisive battle was coming. I don't care. I will stay here tonight. When Lin Yan was willful, there was nothing she could do. The little lass ignored Li Fan. She lowered her head and continued to look at the accounts. No matter what Li Fan said, she ignored him. Qingshan, you are responsible for protecting Miss Lin. Li Fan was also at his wit's end. He let Sun Qingshan protect Lin Yuexin. This seemingly ordinary driver wasn't one of the hooligans who joined the security company at the beginning, but an expert brought by Ling Tian. According to Ling Tian, Sun Qingshan's strength wasn't weak. He had saved his life before, so now he was determined to follow Ling Tian. And when Ling Tian joined his small group, Sun Qingshan also became his bodyguard. Got it, boss? Sun Qingshan nodded and stood beside Lin Yu. Comrade Shaolin, don't leave Qingshan tonight, okay? What about you? Can't you protect me? Lin Yu finally raised her head and looked at Li Fan. I can't split myself, Accountant Lin. Li Fan shrugged. I'm afraid there will be a fierce battle tonight. Our brothers are ready. Huang Lei was distributing weapons to a few security guards. Because they weren't a criminal company, Fifan Express didn't have any powerful firearms. What Huang Lei distributed were electric batons. These stun batons were all high-quality goods bought at a high price. Each of them was camouflaged and half a meter long. Apart from being able to illuminate, the metal parts on top could also emit high-voltage electricity, instantly knocking out the enemy. The control of knives in the country was relatively strict. Even these stun batons were approved by Li Fan through some connections. Li Fan didn't let everyone stay. He only left a few with slightly better skills, about a dozen of them. At this time, there wasn't a need to leave too many people. If he let those who weren't skilled stay, they would just be throwing their lives away. Don't forget the bulletproof vest. Li Fan reminded. For the safety of his men, Li Fan would never be stingy with his spending. Don't worry, big brother. It has already been distributed. Huang Lei patted the bulletproof vest on him. You don't even fight. Why are you wearing it? Lin Yuexin couldn't help but ask. I don't know how to fight, but I know how to join in the fun. Huang Lei waved the baseball bat in his hand. All along, everyone said that I'm a big mouth. Today is the time for me, Emperor Huang Lei, to show off my elegance. How are you like an emperor? Lin Yuexin pouted. Huang Lei was just about to point at his crotch when he remembered that she was his big brother's woman. He swallowed his words. Ignore him. When the fight starts, he'll find a place to hide. Ling Tian arranged some tools and pulled out a Glock 17 pistol from his trousers. He checked the bullets in it. Looking at the group of people around him staring at each other, Ling Tian asked seriously. Didn't I say? I'm a Hong Kong citizen and I have a gun license. Your gun license? Can it be used in the mainland? Of course it can be used if I have connections. Ling Tian continued to check his gun. As long as it's for self-defense, I can use it. Li Fan was speechless. This Ling Tian was too capable. He shocked him time and time again. It's about time. I think the show is about to start. Li Fan clapped his hands. Everyone get ready. We're going to receive the guests from the yellow uniform group. As he spoke, Li Fan stood on the windowsill and looked at the scenery outside. A voice entered Li Fan's ears. An expert is here. It was Yushi talking to him again. Where was this girl hiding? As he did not know Yushi's location, Li Fan could not transmit his voice to her. I'll help you stop that expert. Yushi's voice came again. I'll leave the rest to you. Then I'll have to trouble you. Li Fan did not know if Yushi could hear him. After thanking her, he began to order the others to prepare for the enemy. While Li Fan was preparing, there was movement on the other side. Sharkanov was a mercenary. To be precise, he was once a secret agent of the KGB. However, due to personal reasons, he was removed from the KGB and was even exiled to the Middle East, banned from returning. Thus, he chose to become a notorious mercenary. At least this way, he would not have to worry about food or clothing. No matter how dirty the mission was, as long as the price was right, Sharkanov would carry it out. It was the same this time. With Sun Jiaoyang's help, Sharkanov sneaked into the Chinese border. Sharkanov was skilled, but he was very cautious. He checked his silenced pistol. Everything was fine. He just needed to complete the mission and get the money. His goal was to take down a Chinese organization. These Chinese monkeys were his bounty. Sharkanov looked at the time. It was about time. He put on his tactical glasses, kicked open the warehouse door and rushed in. There were a few gunmen standing in the warehouse. They looked at him and shouted something at him. Sharkanov's forte was his marksmanship. He immediately raised his gun and shot the gunman to the ground. In the end, there was a Chinese gunman left. He looked at him in fear and kept shouting. He was probably begging him. There were always people like him. People who were afraid of death were really cowards. Without hesitation, Sharkanov raised his gun and shot through the man's head. What a sad man. He hoped that he could go and see their Buddha. Sharkanov drew a cross in front of him and passed through the warehouse to the agreed place. After he completed the mission, the employer should be waiting for him here. Chapter 463. Sun Jiaoyang stood in a very secluded office. He looked at the time. It's about time he should be here. Just as his voice fell, the door was pushed open. Sharkanov walked in with strong steps. Sun Jiaoyang couldn't help but want to praise, this Russian mercenary is really sturdy. Looking at his muscles, that small arm is almost as thick as my leg. Sure enough, on time. Sun Jiaoyang praised, Sharkanov, for this operation, I arranged a few teammates for you. You should have seen them when you came in. Sun Jiaoyang spoke pure Russian. He used to travel between China and Russia all year round, so naturally he has a good grasp of Russian. Sharkanov was stunned for a moment. He did not speak for a long time. Mr. Sun, bad news? The people outside have all been killed. A lackey stumbled in and reported to Sun Jiaoyang. What? Sun Jiaoyang immediately frowned. Could it be that Li Fan has already made his move? No matter what. Mr. Sun is in danger. It's better to leave from the back door. Got it. Sun Jiaoyang also treasured his life very much. Before he left, he tiptoed and patted Sharkanov's sturdy shoulder. I'll leave the rest to you. You follow him. He will naturally tell you what to do. Sun Jiaoyang pointed at his subordinate. He also knows some Russian. Okay. Sharkanov secretly wiped the cold sweat off his forehead. He followed the subordinate, went out, got on a Santana, and drove to the old city. After Sun Jiaoyang left, he also sat in a black Mercedes-Benz. The driver is a subordinate who has been with him for a long time. That subordinate is his confidant. Sharkanov alone is not enough to deal with an expert like Li Fan. Sun Jiaoyang took out his pipe and filled it with expensive shredded tobacco. So, that woman called Qin Meng will help me solve everything. Night fell, the moon hung high. A woman wearing a black dress, holding an umbrella in her hand, was walking on the roof. Her steps were light, like a cat's. It snowed all year round in a city, and today is the same. The sky is fluttering with light snow. A black wildcat ran past, its body as fast as the wind. The woman frowned slightly. Then she pulled out a sword from her umbrella and stabbed forward. The wildcat didn't even have time to scream before 10 bloody holes appeared on its body. It then fell into a pile of snow, its blood mixing with the white snow. What a powerful slice snow sword. A woman wearing the vest of the Imperial Secret Service was standing on top of a telephone pole. She was half squatting there, and there was a black knife at her waist. The dignified Qin Meng is not by Li Wei's side. She actually came to such a small city. What a rare guest. Isn't Heartless Saber doing the same thing? Qin Meng raised her head and looked at Yu Shi, who was on the telephone pole. It seems that this small city is quite popular. Stupid. Yu Shi reminded Qin Meng, don't you know who you are facing? Little tyrant Li Fan, his price is naturally higher. Qin Meng smiled. But if you are included, it will be even more expensive. Today, I will repay the enmity of a single glance. Yu Shi gently touched his eye patch with his left hand. It's a pity that you still have one eye. Qin Meng looked at Yushi's other eye and said, "Your eye is so beautiful, it seems to be even more beautiful than mine. To be honest, I'm a little jealous." Qin Meng was a famous assassin in the pugilistic world, and her nickname was Throat Slash. Her purpose of coming here today was to take Li Fan's life. Qin Meng raised his umbrella to block the falling snowflakes. "If you don't mind, can you leave your other eye behind too? Come and take it if you can." She touched the black knife and said, "The blackguard, heartless saber, is here to punish you." Before Yushi could finish speaking, Qin Meng's body seemed to have traveled through space and appeared in front of Yushi in the blink of an eye. At the same time, the sword in her hand went straight for Yushi's black crystal-like eye. However, Yushi was not slow either. He immediately raised his knife and the black knife went straight for Qin Meng's cheek. The two of them attacked with almost fatal moves. Clang. The two of them took a step back at the same time, and the two weapons collided, producing sparks. Others could not see it at all, but in that instant, the two of them had already exchanged more than 10 moves. Poof! A bloody mark appeared on Yushi's neck, and the front of Qin Meng's shirt was also cut open, revealing the black bra inside. "So you like this kind of thing?" Qin Meng laughed. "Why didn't you say so earlier? I don't mind showing you more. I'm not interested in flat breasts. I'm a C cup. It'll be gone soon." Yushi raised his knife and a black light suddenly appeared in the air. It was as if even the moon was missing a corner. Even Qin Meng could not help but frown at such a knife technique. Qin Meng's body instantly appeared on a roof in the distance, and a treasured sword returned to the umbrella. "Your knife technique has indeed improved. However, it's still a little worse than mine." As Qin Meng spoke, a bloody mark appeared on Yushi's lower abdomen. Just now, Qin Meng's sword had brushed past Yushi's lower abdomen. "In the end, the heartless saber is still not comparable to my snow sword." Qin Meng revealed a smile towards Yushi. "Next time, the sword will pierce your eyes." A sword appeared in Yushi's eyes. This Qin Meng had used her ultimate skill, and Yushi was actually unable to dodge it. "I'll take this eye." Only Qin Meng's voice remained in her ears. But at this moment, 2 fingers extended out from the side, and with a clang, the sword was deflected. "What?" Qin Meng cried out in surprise as she looked at her rapier in disbelief. "Yushi, you're too careless." Li Fan wore a gray down jacket as he stood beside Yushi and extended 2 fingers. He gently hugged Yushi's waist with one hand and whispered into her ear, "Fortunately, I came over to take a look. Otherwise, you wouldn't be able to keep your beautiful eyes." "Why are you here?" Yushi looked at Li Fan with dissatisfaction. "Since you're here, what about over there?" "Don't worry, I'll be back soon." Li Fan looked at Qin Meng who was holding an umbrella in front of him. "Is this the expert that you invited? Your taste in underwear is not bad." "Is that so? As long as you like it." Qin Meng held the umbrella as she stared at Li Fan in front of her. She seemed to be sizing him up, wondering how he was different from ordinary high school students. "She's a famous assassin in the pugilistic world, nicknamed One Sword to the Throat. She introduced to Li Fan, you must be careful of her sword, it's very fast." Chapter 464. Indeed. Qin Meng's smile was like a flower. "By the time you see my sword, you will already be dead." Li Fan stretched out 2 fingers and suddenly pinched. Qin Meng just happened to appear in front of him, and the rapier in her hand was easily pinched by Li Fan's 2 fingers. Great sage plucking the stars. Li Fan easily pinched Qin Meng's rapier, causing Qin Meng to be shocked. Her snow sword was the fastest rapier in the world. Even Heartless Blade Yu, she could not keep up with her sword techniques. And this rising star of the pugilistic world in front of her, how did he manage to catch her rapier? Was it luck? Qin Meng shook her sword energy and flicked away Li Fan's fingers, then instantly thrust it out 10 times. Li Fan placed 2 fingers in front of him and continuously flicked away Qin Meng's rapier. No matter how hard Qin Meng tried, her opponent's rapier was unable to harm her at all. Impossible! Qin Meng did not dare to believe her eyes. Li Fan actually blocked all of her sword techniques? Other than the sect leader, there was actually someone else who could do it? How would she know that Li Fan possessed a pair of eyes, which was the nemesis of her rapier? Have you played enough? Li Fan held onto Qin Meng's rapier with one hand and said at the same time, "If you've played enough, it's time for me to make my move." Li Fan's Ape King cannon directly smashed onto Qin Meng's lower abdomen. Bang! Qin Meng's body immediately turned into a cannonball and flew out, crashing into the wall behind her and creating a crater in the wall. The might of Li Fan's Ape King cannon was not light. After taking this move, even Qin Meng could not help but vomit a mouthful of blood. One slash to the throat? Li Fan pointed at his throat. Then why don't you give it a try? A mere little overlord is too arrogant. As Qin Meng spoke, she pulled herself out of the crater with killing intent in her eyes. "I'll take your life." As she spoke, Qin Meng had already appeared in front of Li Fan. The rapier in her hand almost brushed past Li Fan's cheek, stabbing empty air. Li Fan looked at the sharp rapier and stretched out 3 fingers. "I'll defeat you within 3 moves. Dream on." Qin Meng's sword slashed out 10 afterimages, but Li Fan had already appeared on her right side, easily dodging Qin Meng's attack. At the same time, Li Fan sent a palm strike towards Qin Meng, but it was blocked by her own umbrella. This umbrella was made of alloy and was very sturdy. Qin Meng usually did not use it. When she used it, it was only when her life was at stake. She could often use it to turn the situation around. However, when Li Fan's palm landed on the umbrella, a palm print appeared on the umbrella. The huge force caused the umbrella to fly out of Qin Meng's hand. Poof! Li Fan's tiger claw grabbed onto Qin Meng's neck, and his fingers gently sank into Qin Meng's flesh. As long as Li Fan used a little more strength, Qin Meng's throat would be crushed by him. "Next time, if you want to kill me, send a stronger assassin. You don't live up to your name." As he spoke, Li Fan pushed with his hand, throwing Qin Meng's body out. Qin Meng landed on the snowy ground, half squatting there with an ugly expression on her face. "Your life will be mine sooner or later." She knew that she would not be able to take down Li Fan today, so she simply picked up the umbrella that was sent flying and used it to slide away. Her movement technique is not bad. Li Fan wiped off the blood on his hand. "The next time you meet her, remember to dodge the moment her wrist moves. You will be easily tricked by her fake movements." Yushi was somewhat unconvinced. "Also, aren't you afraid that something will happen to the company by coming to find me? Is it because of that little girl from Huashan? Little senior sister Xia Yi?" Li Fan laughed. "It's not peaceful these 2 days, so I let little senior sister stay in the hotel first." "How can I let little senior sister participate in such a messy matter?" "You're very considerate of her." When Yushi said this, she was slightly jealous. After all, little senior sister came from a place without any disputes. Li Fan hurriedly explained, "Her heart is still very weak. Huashan has just experienced a huge dispute." Yushi stared at Li Fan. "Not only Huashan, you should also go to Wudong Mountain to take a look." "Wudong Mountain? What happened to Wudong Mountain?" "This is the reason why I came to find you." Yushi said, "Your fiancé is already trapped in Wudong Mountain. The devil cult has occupied that place." What? Li Fan didn't quite believe it. What kind of strength did Muronging have? In the current martial arts world, how many people could be her opponent? She was trapped in Wudong Mountain by the devil cult? That's not possible, right? In short, she fell into the devil cult's trap. The higher-ups have informed me to rescue her. I think you might be willing to go with me. Yushi glanced at Li Fan. "But I think it's better for you to deal with the matters in your hands." "No need, let's go now." Li Fan looked confident. "My brothers are in the company, there won't be any problems." The yellow uniform group has made a big move. Can they be relied on? I trust them. Li Fan nodded. We've done bigger things than that. If we don't even trust each other, how can we do big things together? Before coming out, Ling Tian had guaranteed to Li Fan that there would be no problems with the company. Since you're so confident, then let's go now. She trusted Li Fan. Are we going to use Qinggong or take a car? Li Fan asked. Neither. Yushi pointed to the tall building in the distance. The helicopter is already waiting for us. Fuck, she's a tycoon. Li Fan gave up and followed Yushi into the helicopter. At that moment, the yellow uniform group had already begun to attack the small earthen building under Shakanov's leadership. However, the courtyard of the earthen building had been repaired and was now 4 meters high, covered in glass shards. To be able to come down from above, half of them would be crippled. Even for Sun Jiaoyang, it was not convenient for him to make a big deal out of it. The last time, the yellow uniform group had already gone overboard and caused too much of an impact in the city. Therefore, this time, Sun Jiaoyang needed to kill them in one shot. He did not send too many people, only 20 gunmen. These 20 gunmen each had a 54 black star that was bought at a high price in the black market. Tonight was the 15th day of the first lunar month. Every household would set off firecrackers. The sound of firecrackers could cover up the gunshots. Shakanov led the 20 gunmen and sneaked to the back door of the earthen building. The back door was only 2 meters high. This was the only way to sneak into the earthen building. Shakanov waved his hand at the 2-meter-tall iron gate. 2 gunmen immediately came under the door and stretched out their hands. As for the other 2 gunmen, they stepped on their arms and pushed them to the top of the door. Chapter 465. These gunmen were well trained. 2 of them were lifted up and easily crossed the 2-meter distance to land on the other side of the door. Shakanov nodded and ordered the 2 gunmen behind him to jump over to the other side. After sending the 6 gunmen over, Shakanov suddenly felt that something was wrong. Too quiet. It was indeed too quiet. Those who went over, reply quickly. Shakanov winked at the man who spoke Russian. The man was smart enough to understand and immediately asked through the walkie-talkie. But no one answered. The man asked again, but there was still silence. Shakanov felt that something was wrong. He immediately pointed at the door. The gunmen immediately retreated a distance away. Shakanov aimed at the door and pulled the trigger, firing a few shots. Dang dang dang. The door lock was broken, and Shakanov kicked the door open. The moment the door was opened, it was as if a woman had opened her legs. Shakanov had decided to raise this place to the ground and collect his employer's bounty. But the 6 gunmen seemed to have evaporated into thin air, disappearing without a trace. But there was a man standing there, holding 2 huge Gatling guns in his hands. What the hell? Shakanov nearly peed his pants. Is this a fucking joke? The man in front of him was none other than the devil's incarnate. He smiled at Shakanov. Shakanov hurriedly shouted, "Don't worry." Although it was Russian, the other gunmen understood what he was saying. The gunmen were so scared that they turned around and wanted to run. But suddenly, more than 10 men holding camouflage stun batons appeared behind them. They acted instantly and cleanly. The stun batons hit the gunmen. Everything had happened too quickly. The gunmen did not even have time to react. All of them were electrocuted and fell to the ground, twitching and foaming at the mouth. In an instant, they had lost the ability to fight. Only Shakanov was still standing there. A security guard hit him with the stun baton. But with his strong body, he was able to stand there. He roared and kicked the security guard in front of him to the ground. His body was too strong. Shakanov raised his gun and fired at the 3 security guards. Bang bang bang. The 3 security guards were immediately sent flying. Fortunately, the security guards were wearing bulletproof vests. Otherwise, they would have died there. Even so, the ribs of these 3 people were broken. They lay on the ground, unable to get up for a long time. But at this moment, a chain wrapped around Shakanov's neck and dragged his burly body to the ground. Bang! Shakanov's body smashed into the ground, creating a cloud of dust. The devil's incarnation's hands tightly gripped the chains, entangling Shakanov so that he couldn't break free. But Shakanov's body was too strong. He sat up from the ground bit by bit and was about to lift the devil's incarnation's body into the air. Lu Chang and Lu Zhuang dashed over with military bayonets in their hands. They stabbed Shakanov's shoulder several times in a row. Shakanov roared again and again, but he did not fall. Damn you, you've become a little King Kong. The devil's incarnation was enraged. If not for Li Fan's order not to kill these people, but to knock them out and throw them at the entrance of the Yellow Uniform Regiment's base camp, he would have stabbed Shakanov's heart long ago. Get out of here! Shakanov roared in Russian. Then he grabbed Lu Chang and Lu Zhuang's bodies with both hands and threw them away as if they were little chicks. Bang bang! Their bodies landed a distance away, and it was not a light fall. Shakanov grabbed the devil's incarnation's shoulder and pulled him over. He threw him in front of him and stepped on his foot. At the same time, he pulled out his backup pistol and aimed it at the devil's incarnation's head. Lu Chang and Lu Zhuang threw out the military bayonets in their hands. One of the bayonets knocked Shakanov's pistol away, and the other stabbed into his hand. Ah! Shakanov pulled out the stiletto by force and threw it backhanded. Lu Chang instinctively raised his arm to block his face. The bayonet pierced through Lu Chang's arm and forced him to take 2 steps back. This idiot is too stubborn. The devil's incarnation yelled, "This won't do. Let's go all out." Before he could finish his sentence, Shakanov had already lifted him up, and his hands were on the devil's incarnation's neck. The devil's incarnation immediately felt suffocated, and his eyes rolled back. At this moment, Huang Lei appeared out of nowhere. He held the baseball bat in his hand and swung it at Shakanov's head. The baseball bat was dented, and there was a wound on Shakanov's head that was bleeding profusely. But he roared and kicked Huang Lei to the ground. The devil's incarnation was also thrown to the side, and he fell heavily. What the fuck? Is this guy cheating? Huang Lei spat out a mouthful of bile. It was painful. Fuck. This daddy is going to cheat too. The devil's incarnation took out a chainsaw out of nowhere, held it in his hand, and turned the motor. The chainsaw immediately started to operate, and the sawtooth quickly rotated, cutting everything in its path into pieces. No! Lu Chang immediately said, "Boss ordered, don't kill him." Fuck his father, he's already in this state, and he still doesn't let me kill him. The devil's incarnation was about to go crazy, but Shakanov picked up a stick and walked toward him. But at this moment, a beautiful figure suddenly fell into the courtyard. She jumped up, her body was almost suspended in the air, and then she kicked Shakanov's head 3 times in a row. Bang bang bang. This Shakanov directly fainted from the kick. His huge body fell to the ground, unable to stand up for a long time. In Xiaoru stepped on Shakanov's head and looked at the 4 stunned men. "What are you guys doing?" In Xiaoru curiously looked at them, not knowing what they were doing. "Fuck me. Who is this girl?" The devil's incarnation had never seen In Xiaoru before. This was the first time. "Fuck, little ancestor, you're finally here." Huang Lei directly knelt down in front of In Xiaoru. "If you came a little later, we'd be dead for sure." "Who is this blockhead?" In Xiaoru looked at the Russian mercenary under her feet, still somewhat puzzled. "I'll explain to you later." Ling Tian held his pistol and walked out, ordering everyone to clean up the battlefield. "It seems like we won this battle." "Why did they start fighting?" "Where's Li Fan?" In Xiaoru asked. "The boss? He just left a message saying that he went to Wudong Mountain." Chapter 466. He went to Wudong Mountain? In Xiaoru rolled her eyes. "It's such a fun thing, yet he didn't call me along." In Xiaoru seemed rather displeased. "No, I have to chase after him," In Xiaoru said and used her qinggong to move around like the wind, instantly disappearing in front of the devil incarnate and the rest. This woman, Huang Lei and the rest wiped their sweat and wondered if Big Brother would have a headache. At this moment, Li Fan had already flown to the foot of Wudong Mountain. Because the mountain was guarded by the disciples of the devil sect, he landed on the top of the mountain without being too conspicuous. "It doesn't look any different." Li Fan looked at the towering Wudong Mountain and couldn't help but mutter. The 15th day of the first lunar month had already passed, and the sky was beginning to turn bright. The two of them did not sleep for almost the entire night, but because they were both martial artists, they were still very energetic. How could Li Fan fall asleep when his fiancée was locked up in such a place? The Wudong Hall is now like a prison. Yushi placed her hand on her black sword and stared at the halls on the mountain. Fortunately, Li Wei is not here. Li Wei? The leader of solipsism? Yes, he's a ruthless one. Yushi continued. Besides, according to our spies in Wudong Mountain, Song Fuya from the Medicine King Valley is here too. I know about the Medicine King Valley and I've dealt with an elder of the Yin clan before. However, who is Song Fuya? She's the former leader of the Yin clan. Yushi's grasp of the information of the martial artists was almost as good as a database. She used an invisible and colorless poison, which seems to be a modified cultivation dissipation powder. Li Fan had once been poisoned by the cultivation dissipation powder, and that thing was indeed terrible. It was no wonder that Murong Ing was locked up. After absorbing that thing, she couldn't even raise her skills. How could she play? This is for you. Yushi handed a black glass ball to Li Fan. What? Do you want to play marbles with me at such a serious time? Yushi rolled one of her eyes and said, "This is a poison-repelling bead, extracted from a 10,000-year-old snow toad." She stuffed the poison-repellent bead into Li Fan's hand. "Put it on your tongue. It will protect you from all poisons." "What about you?" Li Fan couldn't help worrying about Yushi. "I have been trained since I was young. Poison has no effect on me." Yushi's words seemed calm, but Li Fan felt that there was endless bitterness in them. However, since Yushi didn't want to talk about it, it wasn't appropriate for him to ask. "Okay, how do we go up the mountain?" Li Fan stood at the foot of the mountain and looked at Wudong Mountain. There were already many disciples of the Devil sect guarding it. Before he found his fiancée, everything was still unknown. There are two ways. One is to attack by force, and the other is to outsmart him. Yushi pointed at Mount Wudong and said, "If we attack them head-on, we will have to face them head-on. To outsmart them is to sneak up the mountain." Sneak in? Well, we can pretend to be tourists to offer incense and enter Mount Wudong to investigate the whereabouts of Murong Ing and the others. Both of these methods are good. Li Fan nodded. "Come on. All of them?" Yushi was stunned. Why would all of them come? These two methods contradict each other. "Well, I attack by force and you outsmart him." Li Fan stood at the foot of the mountain, facing Mount Wudong, and said with a smile, "When I attack by force, help me investigate where my troublesome fiancé is locked up. Attacking by force is too dangerous. Not to mention you are alone. I am not alone." Li Fan took out the poison-repellent bead and said, "Aren't you always by my side?" "Take care." Yushi did not hesitate. Since Li Fan had decided on a plan, she immediately turned and walked into the snow. The snow was very heavy and seemed to be getting heavier. Li Fan stretched and then slowly walked towards the entrance of Mount Wudong. After the 15th of the first month, because it was snowing, there were not many tourists. Mount Wudong was also very quiet. At the foot of the mountain stood two men who were obviously not Wudong disciples. Wudong disciples were all wearing dark blue Taoist robes, but these two disciples were wearing black and red robes with a black sun imprinted on their chest. Solipsism. Solipsism. When Li Fan walked up, the two disciples thought that he was a tourist and did not pay too much attention to him. However, Li Fan stood in front of the mountain gate, summoned his true energy, and roared. "Solipsism. Young Master Li Fan. Release the young master's woman. Otherwise, I will wash Mount Wudong with blood." The roar was like thunder, shaking the Wudang mountain. The two devil cult disciples were startled. Their eyes fell on Li Fan at the same time. "You are Li Fan?" "Yes, I am your young master." Li Fan laughed. "If you know what's good for you, scram to the side. Otherwise, I will not be polite." "With just you? You want to challenge my devil sect? Idiot." The two devil disciples immediately rushed over. They were holding two long sabers as if they wanted to chop Li Fan into pieces. Although they were only guarding disciples, their martial arts were indeed good and their saber techniques were also very sharp. As the saying goes, a quick saber cuts a tangled hemp. But Li Fan just smiled. He stretched out his hands and flicked the sabers away. At the same time, his right leg kicked out twice, hitting the acupoints of the two people and knocking them unconscious. Solipsism is only SOS. Li Fan passed through the entrance and continued up the mountain. The mountain road was rugged. As the road to the sect, there was only a small path that led to the top of the mountain. The other side was a wide road, but it led to the Wudong sect's tourist area. That was the route that belonged to Yushi. He did not go there. From the mountain, a lot of solipsism disciples came down. Each of them had an overbearing aura as they intercepted Li Fan on the rugged mountain road. A few devil disciples roared and pounced towards Li Fan. Li Fan did not show any mercy. With a few punches and kicks, he knocked 4 devil disciples to the ground. The last Bear King seal landed on the chest of the last evil sect disciple who was charging over. Boom! That devil disciple was immediately sent flying and smashed a few pine trees on the side of the road before fainting there. As for those devil disciples on the ground, Li Fan stomped on their hands and feet, crippling their martial arts. Li Fan's methods caused the remaining devil disciples to be afraid. They stood there, no one dared to take a step forward. As Li Fan walked forward, they watched as Li Fan continuously retreated. Not long later, Li Fan arrived in front of the Wudong main hall. Many devil disciples rushed out. A total of 40 to 50 people blocked in front of Li Fan. Everyone looked at Li Fan vigilantly as if they were facing a great enemy. But no one dared to step forward. They could only maintain a certain distance from Li Fan. A bunch of trash. At this time, 3 people walked out. The one who spoke was a woman in a cloak. Chapter 467. What a bunch of trash. Song Fuya crossed her arms and sneered coldly. What's the use of the leader keeping you? After all, she was Elder Zhua. With her ridicule, those devil cult disciples didn't dare to hesitate anymore. They mustered up their courage and rushed toward Li Fan. Some appetizers? Li Fan didn't care. His moves were very clean and neat, constantly defeating the enemies in front of him. More than 40 devil cult disciples launched an attack, but Li Fan only used his 7-hero fist. 1 move for each of them. In less than 5 minutes, they were all down. Indeed, a bunch of trash. Li Fan laughed. They didn't even warm up. Little Overlord Li Fan, do you really think you can win? Song Fuya crossed her arms and stood in front of Li Fan. In the count of 10, you won't be able to use internal force anymore. That sounds really scary. Li Fan shrugged his shoulders. Leave it to me. White Impermanence licked his fingers. Let me tear this person's neck. I want to taste his blood. You devil cult really have a heavy taste. Li Fan couldn't help but ridicule. The heavier taste is yet to come. White Impermanence stretched out his hands. Wait for me to pull out your intestines and let you have a good look. With that, White Impermanence jumped and easily crossed the distance of more than 10 meters. He appeared on top of Li Fan's head and grabbed toward Li Fan's throat with his soul-snatching claw. Li Fan stretched out his hands and directly grabbed White Impermanence's wrist. At the same time, his knee heavily hit White Impermanence's lower abdomen. White Impermanence spat out a mouthful of blood. But he was a qualified martial artist and the devil cult's right protector, so he endured it. But Li Fan twisted his waist and swung his hands, directly throwing White Impermanence away. White Impermanence's body flipped in the air and landed firmly on the ground. He wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth and looked at Li Fan in surprise. What a waste. Song Fuya and the protectors wanted to ridicule together. White Impermanence immediately cried out, "Fuck, this kid is a little weird." 10 seconds have passed. He's at your mercy now. Song Fuya calculated the time. I rather enjoy the feeling of being slaughtered. White Impermanence looked at Li Fan as if she was looking at a dead man. Bring it on. Li Fan hooked his finger at White Impermanence. Bai Wuchang rushed forward again. This time, his technique was even more incisive. The soul-seizing claw drew an afterimage in the air. But Li Fan just stretched out his crane hand and immediately bounced off White Impermanence's claw. At the same time, Li Fan directly kicked high, bringing out a bolt of lightning right at White Impermanence's face. Rushing thunder feet. Li Fan's kick directly knocked out one of Bai Wuchang's front teeth. Bai Wuchang's body flipped in the air and finally fell heavily to the ground. The Black Impermanence stepped forward and pulled his comrade up. Damn it, where's the promised 10 seconds? He should have prepared some poison-repellent medicine, Song Fuya ridiculed. Trash. With your skills, you still have the face to call yourself the right protector of solipsism? She was very dissatisfied, but the left protector's authority was indeed higher than the right protector. White Impermanence could only clench her teeth and endure. Indeed, it's time for your right protector to be replaced. Li Fan nodded his head, admitting that Song Fuya's words were somewhat reasonable. Black and White Impermanence have always acted together. Song Fuya told Li Fan, when the two of them are together, they are no longer trash. While speaking, White Impermanence had already stood up. The two of them looked at each other before pulling out a ghost beating stick from their back at the same time and held it in their hands. The two of them jumped on the spot. Like zombies, they instantly jumped in front of Li Fan and waved their ghost beating sticks at Li Fan. Li Fan extended his hand to block their ghost beating sticks, but in an instant, the two of them suddenly disappeared. Li Fan's back and waist suffered a blow at the same time, causing his internal organs to tremble. However, Li Fan's internal energy was powerful and was able to stabilize his dantian very quickly. The two of them once again disappeared from Li Fan's line of sight, as if they really were ghosts. Solipsism's right protector, Black and White Impermanence. When the two of them combine their strength, the Impermanence soul-locking formation is unparalleled in the world. Song Fuya still had her arms crossed as she looked at Li Fan. Her gaze carried a cold smile. Coming here without any preparations is truly foolish. The soul-locking formation of the Black and White Impermanence was indeed powerful. It came and went without a trace, causing Li Fan to have a headache. Unknowingly, Li Fan had already been hit tens of times. If not for his chi protecting his body, who knows how many bones in his body would have been broken. Stop playing around. Quickly kill him, Song Fuya urged. As for the Black and White Impermanence, they kept leaving afterimages as they started to hit Li Fan's vitals with their ghost beating sticks. But at this moment, Li Fan extended his hands and released Dragon Toad's absorption of water. The Black and White Impermanence did not even have the chance to react. Their bodies were grabbed by Li Fan and they staggered forward. Li Fan's hands were already on top of their heads. Are you tired of playing? Li Fan's cold voice caused the Black and White Impermanence to be deeply shocked. Bang! Bang! The two of them burst out with chi at the same time and shook off Li Fan's hands before returning to Song Fuya's side. This person's strength is unfathomable. The White Impermanence let out a strange voice, causing people to tremble in fear. Looks like the two of us have to show some of our true abilities. With that, the Black Impermanence suddenly jumped onto the White Impermanence's back. His entire body was very strange, as if a piece of paper was stuck to the White Impermanence's back. This White Impermanence rose and fell and quickly floated towards Li Fan. Li Fan did not know what kind of martial arts this fellow was using. He only felt that it was very strange. After all, they were the Black and White Impermanence. Could it be that they were still wandering in the netherworld? The Black and White Impermanence had already arrived in front of Li Fan in a few leaps. The White Impermanence immediately used Soul-Snatching Claw and grabbed towards Li Fan's neck. And just as Li Fan used Crane Hand to block it, the Black Impermanence's Ghost Beating Stick in both hands smashed towards Li Fan's head. Different bodies with one heart? Li Fan understood that the most powerful state of these two people was the combination of the two. A person with two hands would definitely be more powerful than a person with one hand. And a person with four hands would definitely be more powerful. The two ghost beating sticks went straight for the top of Li Fan's head. If it was a solid hit, even if Li Fan had divine body protection, his head would probably be smashed like a watermelon. But Li Fan was also not a good person. He suddenly shouted, "Ha! Fierce tiger roar!" The sound formed an impact and instantly hit the Black and White Impermanence, causing the two of them to slide back a meter. And Li Fan suddenly took a step forward and directly stabbed into the White Impermanence's shoulder. Dragon Shattering Hand. Li Fan's hand instantly pierced through the white impermanence's shoulder and even stabbed into the black impermanence's shoulder. Chapter 468. Li Fan's hand grabbed onto black impermanence's shoulder blade and pulled back. Gotcha! The black impermanence's shoulder blade pierced through his brother's shoulder and was pulled out by Li Fan. With fresh blood, he was casually thrown to the ground by Li Fan. With just one move, Li Fan had almost destroyed the martial arts of two impermanences. This was the Seven Heroes' Fist. Li Fan always strived to defeat his enemy in one move in the shortest amount of time. When Song Fuya saw this scene, she could not help but be shocked. This is the Seven Heroes' Fist? Song Fuya frowned and asked. That's right. Li Fan nodded. Miss, are you not going to personally exchange a few moves with me? Li Fan beckoned to Song Fuya with his finger. I am the left protector of solipsism, Song Fuya. Song Fuya told him her name. I'm not good at martial arts. Since the right protector has been defeated, there is probably no one on Wudong Mountain who can stop you. She said confidently, but if you were to save Murong Ing and leave today, I am afraid the sect leader of solipsism will not let you off. Little Overlord Li Fan, do you have the guts to become enemies with the sect leader? What you said is quite funny. Li Fan was amused. Young master even dares to marry the Martial Alliance master. Are you afraid of offending the sect leader of an evil cult? The grudge between me and your evil cult is not just this little. Li Fan said, I will definitely take revenge for stealing my 9 Buddha Sutra and the Sword of 4 Beasts. Since I lost face, I will naturally take it back myself. Just a mere Martial Alliance master. Solipsism does not place him in my eyes. Song Fuya said loudly, in the world of pugilistic world, only I am supreme. In the world of pugilistic world, only I am supreme. Countless voices reverberated around. Li Fan looked up and saw that on the surrounding main halls, there were suddenly densely packed evil faction disciples. There were at least 200 to 300 of them. Moreover, these devil cult disciples emitted an unusual feeling, giving Li Fan a sense of threat. He was also surprised that the devil cult had hidden so many disciples in this place. They think too highly of Wudong. This is the true power of solipsism. Song Fuya said proudly, how can you fight against hundreds of my disciples alone? What if I'm included? At this moment, a familiar man walked over with a black box on his back. He was dressed in ordinary casual clothes, but he had a temperament that no one dared to underestimate. Behind him were more than 200 experts dressed in blue robes. Each of them had a sword imprinted on their back. Li Fan was familiar with the man leading the group. He had fought with him not long ago. There were 4 major alliances in the pugilistic world, and this man was a cadre of Whistling West Wind who was also the eldest disciple of Yin Wuchao, Su Zhenrong. Brother Li, I'm late. Su Zhenrong cupped his hands at Li Fan and then looked up at Song Fuya. Left protector, since everyone has brought their men here, why don't we have a fight and have some fun? Whistling West Wind, how dare you ruin solipsism? Song Fuya's voice sounded a little angry. The 4 major alliances have always been enemies with the devil cult. Su Zhenrong smiled. Could it be that we have become good friends without me knowing? You foolish people! Song Fuya cursed. How dare you stop the sect master? You will all be destroyed. It's definitely a cult déjà vu. Li Fan couldn't help but want to complain. Song Fuya seems to have been brainwashed. How powerful is Li Wei to make Song Fuya so loyal to him? Li Fan couldn't help but imagine what Li Wei looked like. Left protector, you're a smart person. Do you still want to be enemies with us in this situation? Su Zhenrong continued to ask. Whistling West Wind is really generous. You must have sent all the experts. Not at all. The devil cult is an honorable guest. We should entertain them well. In front of me, these 200 men of yours are nothing more than trash. Since I know that you're here, wouldn't I be prepared? Su Zhenrong said with a smile. Before going up the mountain, I've already made everyone take the heart-cleansing pill. Within 4 hours, they will be immune to all poisons. If you don't believe me, Feel free to try it. The two of them spoke one after another, and Song Fuya finally humphed. Little Overlord Li Fan, riding your horse and whistling in the west wind, we, the devil cult, will remember this. Retreat. Yes. All the disciples of the devil cult immediately evacuated from the Wudong mountain. 2 disciples of the devil cult also came over and carried their right protector away. But of these 2 black and white impermanents, at least the black impermanence has already lost an arm. Looking at these devil cult disciples leaving like the tide, Su Zhenrong also let out a sigh of relief. She's finally gone. Scared her away? Li Fan raised his eyebrows and roughly understood what Su Zhenrong meant. It seems that Big Brother Su doesn't have the so-called heart-cleansing pill, right? Su Zhenrong smiled. Not only do I not have the heart-cleansing pill, but more than half of these 200 people are extras I hired from the town. I left in a hurry. How could I bring so many people? Li Fan suddenly felt that this Su Zhenrong was not easy to deal with. If he became enemies with this guy, he didn't know when he would be schemed against. Since the people of the devil cult have retreated, Brother Li, quickly go and pick up your fiancée. Su Zhenrong reminded Li Fan, I also want to pay a visit to the Alliance Master. No matter what, Su Zhenrong helped him this time. Besides, Su Zhenrong had helped him a little. Brother Li, you may not know, but the people on the roof just now are the corpse disciples of the devil cult. Corpse disciples. What the hell is that? Li Fan felt like he was illiterate. That's a special weapon of the devil cult. Su Zhenrong got goosebumps at the mention of it. They let some fanatical believers in the cult smear corpse oil on their bodies and use some kind of demonic attack to train their bodies to have bronze skin and iron bones. Su Zhenrong continued, with these bronze skin and iron bones, they can be invulnerable and impervious to fire and water. Li Wei likes to call his terrifying corpse disciples the undead army that fights for him in the holy war. Li Wei is really ruthless. Li Fan was a little fearful. The leader of the devil cult was using advanced technology. If he had really fought with 200 of them just now, it might have been difficult to determine the winner. After all, they were a group of people with bronze skin and iron bones. His hands would hurt if he fought with them. Li Fan was walking inside when he suddenly saw a figure floating past. He subconsciously turned around. Beside him were the extras hired by Su Zhenrong, as well as some real disciples of Whistling West Wind who were rescuing the disciples of the Wudong sect. Did I see wrongly? You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.